Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of September 26, 2023. Man, is this year flying by. Huge week of DC Comics. Some might say too many books.
Yeah, it feels that way when you're like us and when we read and review every single comic that comes out. Yeah, it certainly feels like a lot.
Yeah, when I would say some would say I'm some of those some. And Rocky and I were talking before we started recording. I feel a little bit hypocritical. I campaigned for more anthologies. DC need to put out more anthologies. Gives a chance for up and coming creators to to show what they can do. It gives a chance to get some B, C, D, all the way down to Z list characters a chance to show up now and then. And DC's doing that. They've done that a lot over the past couple of years. And so I feel a little hypocritical saying, oh my God, too many anthologies. The problem is when I was campaigning for those anthologies, I was campaigning for them as a replacement for so many monthly titles. And it's like, we're getting the anthologies on top of the monthly titles, on top of which we even have initiatives like We Are Legends, which I don't begrudge having more Asian characters. And my favorite DC title, in recent memory, The Vigil, is part of We Are Legends. But it's a lot. It's a lot of books. There are too many. I was going through and I was putting together my reading list for 2023, all the stuff that I've read in anticipation of end of the year awards and all that. And I'm just struck by the fact that I can't even. There are things on my read list that I haven't actually gotten a chance to read yet. A lot of things actually, because there are so many good comics. But that's the problem. There's too much stuff on it. There's too many comics. It's not just DC. It's Marvel. It's independent. The market is being artificially propped up by variant covers, as we all know. And that's not the. I'm going to get off my soapbox because that's not the point of this episode. But when that goes away, the market's going to be in for a big correction. Big regression, because without those variant covers artificially propping things up, you're going to have less retailers. And you're going to just have less books. There's not enough money coming in to support that, the number of titles that are coming out right now. So,
yeah.
But in terms of quality, I thought overall it was an okay week. For this much stuff, you really hope to have some home runs, and I didn't feel like there was anything that was a home run. But what do you think, Rock?
Well, I think that with Night Terrors taking the 2-month break there, you'd mentioned that before we started the podcast, and it did take away some momentum, and even this week with this week we got the premiere issues of Power Girl and Flash, which it's I mean that's great, I guess. On the other hand, they're both sort of robbing each other of potential hype, I suppose. But and anyways, I think they're both. Well, we'll talk about the titles. I think they're both a little bit maybe mediocre, hit and miss. But there's so much coming out this week that it gets a Green Arrow's back. Green Arrow almost feels like a fresh issue to me because it's back with this coming back from Night Terrors. This week feels a little bit overwhelming to me, and everything Green Arrow, Action Comics, Flash, Power Girl, Penguin. There's some really great issues here, or at least. Even if you don't like the issues, they're bigger hyped stories in any event. People are looking forward to them. And, no buts. Shame on me for being a little bit cynical. I actually probably am more on the optimistic side, and we'll get into it. But I thought, despite being a little bit overwhelmed, there are some good comics here. But as you say, there's so damn many comic books, they just get lost in the shuffle. I feel that way, and I stopped reading Marvel a while back, more than a year ago. So, and I still feel overwhelmed. But let's get into it.
Yeah, first up, Harley Quinn number 32. I did have what is going on? There we go. Tini Howard on script, Sweeney Boo, art and colors, Steve Wands on the letters. Let me talk about the art first off. The art's gorgeous. I think Sweeney Boo does a fantastic job as the artist on this series. I know that maybe her style of art isn't for everybody, but for me, it really works. That being said, I don't know how well this Harley title is working for the majority of Harley fans. As you guys know, if you listen to the podcast for a long period of time, I'm not the biggest Harley fan in the world. But so for that, I'm not that invested in kind of the way Harley is or the status quo, or what's been going on, all the stuff Jimmy and Amanda did, the Beaver, Coney Island, her Red Tool, and all the other, kind of crazy supporting characters that she's had. So for Tini Howard to take her and give her some superpowers, some multiversal powers of some sort that she doesn't even know how they work, she can't really control them or access them, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all, because I'm not like this big, Harley fan and, happy with the status quo and what have you. I don't really feel any kind of ownership over Harley the way I might, be a little more inclined on some other heroes that I've been reading longer and I enjoy more. But I could see how if somebody's a longtime Harley fan, they don't like this, right? Like, no, don't give Harley superpowers. Don't do this. Don't do that. Because some of these things that Tini's doing are huge. Like the fact that she's changed Lou and Bud to the fact that they're like aliens or extra dimensional creatures or something. And like they're super intelligent and, advanced to be a species or whatever. Like that's a big deal if you're an old school Harley fan and you just like the old school Hyena, Lou and Bud sort of stuff. So I could see how it could rub some people the wrong way. But for me, it's fun. I don't take it too seriously. I like that, Brother Eye shows up. I like that Lady Quark shows up. Like these aren't characters that you normally would associate with Harley Quinn. Like they're Lady Quark, like big part of Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the day, and certainly a powerful character. So it's such an interesting juxtaposition to take Harley and make her like this multiversal character. Usually you think of multiversal characters, you think of like the Flash, right? Or Rip Hunter, Time Master, or, Booster Gold, some characters like that have these, really powerful abilities. You don't necessarily put Harley in there, but, she reached through the multiverse, she pulled out this Vorpal fish, and chaos has ensued. So in this issue, Lady Quark's trying to figure out how and what Harley is actually capable of. And, all along she's been threatening Harley, hey, if you don't stop messing with the multiverse, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to have to kill you. You're too much of a threat to the multiverse. And in this issue, she's kind of flipping it and she's saying, no, we need to figure out how you have these abilities and what abilities you have. And Harley's like, yeah, that's great. Let's do that. But then it sort of goes sideways on him at the end. Lady Quark, again, she kind of gets a little mean again, turns a little villainous once again, if you will. And she says, well, if we can't figure it out, I am going to have to kill you. Just a reminder, I am going to have to destroy you. So that, that is kind of interesting. The other thing that I really enjoyed about it, talking about the fun and zaniness of it, the issue is called Finals Crisis, not Final Crisis or, the Final Crisis, whatever. But, we know Harley was sentenced to community service to teach this community college class. And it's time for finals at the community college, and with all the other stuff has going on, and she's been neglecting her students, she feels like, a little bit, and her students have been threatened by Two-Face and all this other stuff, and so they're kind of a finals crisis. And when Lady Quark comes and takes Harley, she brings the students as well, and they're safe on this war world of Lady Quark, while Lady Quark and Harley Quinn go off into the bleed. And Lady Quark's like, they'll be fine here, they'll be safe. And, Harley makes some allusion to, she's like, whenever Lady Quark says, yeah, they'll be fine, they'll be safe here, whatever they can imagine, they'll be able to have, have people that'll take care of them, kind of grant their wishes, if you will. And Harley's like, are you sure that's a good idea? These are community college students after all. So, there is some tongue-in-cheek humor. It is fun. I am enjoying it. But again, I can understand why maybe some people wouldn't, why it might rub them the wrong way. But there's enough humor here and there's enough fresh ideas that it's working for me. But at the end of the day, it's still Harley Quinn. So do I feel like I need to read it? No. Do I feel like if anybody's a big Harley fan, they're missing anything with this era of Harley? Nah, probably not. But the Sweeney Boo art does suit the tone of the story very well. And I kind of like the voice that Tini Howard is giving to Harley. And then as far as the backup story, it's written by Sam Maggs, art by Kelly Jones, Joe Villarrubia does the colors, Hassan Atsman Elhau does the letters. And it's, another one is Harley's having a dream. And because it's getting close to Halloween, it's a dream of Harley becoming a vampire. She's bitten by a Jokerized vampire or a vampirized Joker. Like it's Joker, but Joker as Nosferatu. Harley gets bit by the Joker, and she in turn bites Ivy, and they all become immortals, and they're going to live happy ever after. Whatever. It didn't do much for me. Kelly Jones' art I didn't think was particularly special. I could really do without these backups and charge $1 less. They're really not interesting. So anyway, any thoughts on the issue, Rock?
Not really. You kind of said it all. This isn't. I'm not really into this Harley Quinn, this particular iteration of Harley Quinn. It's just not my cup of tea. I appreciate what Tini Howard's doing. Sweeney Boo. I've said before. I was lucky enough to meet her and to get her autograph on some animated Captain Marvel comics in New York Comic Con in 2019. She's a wonderful young woman, very talented. Her style absolutely suits the character. I'm just not into this story. Frankly, I don't think Harley Quinn's been written right in any DC comic at the present moment, if I'm being brutally honest. And I like the Black Label versions of her. Bring back Cami Garcia and give me that Harley Quinn. That's more my up my alley, so to speak. And the irony is that Cami Garcia is actually doing the young adult line for a lot of young adult comics for DC Comics, and yet she also did a Black Label Harley Quinn, which I thought was kind of ironic. But in any event, it's, again, not a bad issue. I just don't see Harley Quinn as being a threat to the multiverse. She's more of the comedic relief, and to try to bestow some type of, believability to me on that for her, it just doesn't fit the tone of the mainstream DC universe in my mind. It should be. It should just be in its own universe. This is just a wonky Harley that just doesn't work for me. But hey, taking nothing away from the story or the artist itself. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, this is a very different version of Harley. And you think about Harley, like I think about her when the New 52 started. When they changed her costume and it was kind of more adult. It took inspiration from the Gotham Knights video game, I guess. You think about that Suicide Squad cover and what have you. So dark and so adult, and this is so far from that. So I don't know. Maybe DC is purposely wanting a more kid-friendly Harley, sell a few more dolls and what have you. Who knows? So anyway, let's move on. Up next, Detective Comics, Out of Hell Part 1 from writer Ram V. Dustin Nguyen handles the pencils. John Kalis on colors. Ariana Mayer on letters. Really interesting to see Dustin Nguyen on pencils. I haven't seen him do pencils on a book since I can remember. He's been doing a lot of watercolor stuff, mostly is what he does now. Whether that's working on some Robin stuff with Jeff Lemire or working on his Little Monsters story or Ascender with Jeff Lemire, what have you. So to see him do pencils, it was interesting. As far as what's going on, it took me a minute. As Rocky mentioned, the Night Terrors thing that was going on. And so it looks like we saw last time Batman, Bruce Wayne, sort of possessed by something. He's traveling around the city, attacking things, blowing things up, clearly possessed by something. He's flashing back, having memories of talking to his father, going back and attacking places and things, whether it's an old candy shop where he used to get candy when he was a little kid. His dad used to take him there, or burning what's left of Halley Circus to the ground. And there's a few different members of Gotham PD that are after him, that are trying to save him from himself, so to speak. But yeah, we're continuing this this sort of gothic Gotham story, and it's so interesting. I'm really not enjoying this that much. It's a fine story. I feel like it's so nuanced and it's so insular and it's so sort of stylized and so kind of out of touch with everything else that's going on. Like, this doesn't tie in with Gotham War at all. So where does this fit with Gotham War or whatever? I say all that to say I feel like Ram V's take on Batman in this Detective Comics, it should have been like in its own, like maybe even Black Label title, like on its own, and not in the regular Detective Comics book, because it's so different in tone and feel, and it's so sort of complicated and what have you, and it feels decompressed as well. I really feel like we should be farther along in the story. I still don't feel like I have a big overall idea of what's going on, other than this family, the Orgums, who apparently, as we've seen, have roots in the very beginnings of Gotham. They've come back for reasons because they deserve Gotham City because they were there at the beginning, what have you, and they're trying to exercise their power. So that feels like that's what's going on, and there's supernatural things involved as well with what their powers are and abilities. And that's it. I've just told you the whole story, and we're like 2 years into this, and I just summed it up. Like, in that's like 4 or 5 issues, maybe 6 issues worth of stuff, but it's been so stretched out. So it's so interesting to me, right? Because I'm absolutely love what Ram V's doing in The Vigil. And I've loved other things he's done, his Swamp Thing run and what have you. Some of his, certainly love some of his, Swamp Thing. Yeah, but also a lot of his independent work, a lot of his creator-owned stuff I've really enjoyed.
Many Deaths of Layla Starr, I think, maybe.
Yeah, he's done some fantastic things. This just, I don't know. It's just, and I'm not saying it's bad, but I just feel like can we get to the point already? Like, it feels like it's just dragging forever. I'm ready. And the problem is it's the same tone and feel. It's so dark and dreary. It just ends up feeling like a chore to read. So to have it go on this long, it's kind of tough. So, and I'll have a couple things to say about the backup, but I'll let you give your thoughts on the main story.
Well, of all the comic books, I mean, all the comic books suffered from night terrors. This one absolutely did, because I had to go back and reread to even catch on what the hell was going on here. I completely forgot about the Asmir and about Batman has glowing green eyes in this issue, and I thought, what? And then I remembered, oh yes, I had to go back and reread. Batman in this issue is possessed by the Asmir because that's how the last arc ended, with Batman being possessed by the Asmir. The Asmir is sort of like the supernatural force that the Organs control, and they're using the Asmir to control some of the citizens of the lower classes of Gotham, and they're trying to give Gotham sentience and they're trying to control the city. And Batman is now in control of is possessed by the Asmir. What Ram V does in this issue is he introduces, we've seen Barbados, but now Barbados, who has always been, and this is where it kind of gets confusing if you've been reading all the Batman titles, Barbados has always been sort of like the demon Batman in the recesses of Batman's mind. Okay? That's separate from the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, which is over in Batman. Now we also have Barbados in this issue, who wants to try to help Batman eliminate the Asmir the Asmir is trying to take over Batman's mind. Well, we got Barbados, who always wants Barbados always wants to devour all of Batman's memories. That's what Barbados does. And we were introduced with Barbados going into to the original Metal. And Barbados was introduced by Grant Morrison, and that was built upon going into Metal by Scott Snyder. And Barbados likes to torment Batman, but Barbados, I get the impression he doesn't like competition, and Barbados will help Bruce Wayne stave off the effects and the influence of the Asmir Barbados reminds Batman to think of powerful settings in the city like Crime Alley to help push out the power of the Asmir. So that's Batman ends up in Crime Alley in this issue. Meanwhile, there's this new Agent Fielding who's got a history with Batman. And this Agent Fielding is looking for Batman as Batman is sort of like wandering all over the city, and Commissioner Montoya is concerned about where he's going. And anyways, that's really what's sort of happening here. Gotham can save Batman from the Asmir by the memories that Gotham has in Batman's mind. And that's the central gist of this issue. But it is... I thought unnecessarily dark and confusing, but I guess it fits the tone and the narrative of what came prior to Night Terrors. But in many ways, this is more Night Terror-like than Night Terrors was. This is a true Night Terror. This is a true nightmare. I mean, the nightmare that Batman had in Night Terrors was a joke compared to what Ram V is putting him through, and for that matter, what Gotham is putting him through, considering how his entire family has betrayed him. But that's my spin on that. But anyway,
it's not a bad. The thing is, it's not a bad story, not bad ideas. As much as I just like it when let's go back to the very beginning and add another thing to the history of Gotham or to the kind of like the Court of Owls. Wait, they operated for years and Batman never knew. Like, I get it. You're a storyteller and you want to tell a cool story, and oftentimes you got to go back and retcon things. And I'm not always a big fan of that because it just feels like, God, there was all, go back and look at the destruction of Krypton, how much stuff they've added into that. It just becomes so convoluted. Like all that stuff couldn't have been going on and nobody knew about it. So these aren't bad ideas, even though it's a little bit cliche what Ron V is doing, having these organs be part of the origins of Gotham City. So they're not bad ideas other than, maybe it's not all, totally original or fresh. The problem is it's so decompressed. It's taking so long. That's the biggest. And it's so, like you said, so bleak and so dreary. There is a backup. It's the 10-Eyed Man. Written by Dan Watters, who's done all the 10-Eyed Man stories that we've had recently the past couple of years. Hayden Sherman is the artist, Triona Farrell on colors, Steve Wan's on letters. I don't know when the 10-Eyed Man became this, like, really, this character that's so tied into supernatural and what have you. It definitely, if you like the previous 10-Eyed Man stories that Dan Watters did, what was it, Arkham City or what have you, you're going to like this. If you didn't like that, you're not going to like this because it's very much in that same tone and same feel. And it's not that it's a bad story, and the art by Hayden Sherman certainly suits the tone of the story that Dan Watters is telling. What's not clear is what the point of this is. Why are we being reminded that the 10-Eyed Man is in Gotham? Like, I didn't really see a point to this story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Charge an extra $1.
Yeah.
Right? Other than charge an extra $1.
Yeah, I mean, the only link to the main story is that the 10-Eyed Man, through his 10 eyes, somehow manages to he feels that the city of Gotham is undergoing a trepanation, which is essentially a brain surgery, and that essentially the equivalent of a brain surgery is being performed in Gotham, a drill in the head to release demons. So if you think of Gotham as having sentience inside a head, and if you think of the subways of Gotham forming again sort of like a human head, a drill is in the head of Gotham that's releasing all these demons, which is kind of what the Orgham's plan actually kind of is, sort of in a metaphysical kind of way. And somehow the 10-Eyed Man can sense this. And then inexplicably at the end, the 10-Eyed Man literally disappears. He's in front of Renee Montoya. He's talking to Renee Montoya. He touches Renee Montoya's body to give her a sense of what he is feeling about something strange happening in Gotham. And then he literally disappears, and there's no explanation as to how he disappears. The police officer says he just disappeared. No explanation as to why in the writing or in the art. And I just, again, I love Dan Watters' Night Terrors story with Batman issue number 2. I think it's arguably one of the best Batman stories I've read in years. I really liked it. But this is one where Dan Watters, again, with these backups, has just left me sort of, scratching my head. I'm not clear exactly what went on, but yeah, it definitely pads the issue unnecessarily to add to the price point, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, I really didn't care for it either. I will say, though, they did give an explanation of how he disappeared. It just didn't make any sense, right? Like, you mentioned the trepanations, which you called it brain surgery. Let's be clear here. So this was, what they did back in like in the 1800s, and people had chronic headaches or whatever, and they thought it was because of pressure in the skull, and they'd use a hammer and a chisel, and they'd go in and they'd like put a hole in somebody's head to release the pressure, whatever, scoop out some of their brains. I mean, we're talking really at the beginning of medicine type stuff. And yeah, that's what the 10-Eyed Man is sensing, that, he puts one of his fingers to somebody's head and he's like, hey, memories are missing. People have a hole in their memories, a hole in their brain. He does that to Renee Montoya, and he goes, there it is. I look inside your head and there's the hole and it's growing. And supposedly he then climbs through the hole, like Renee Montoya said that. Because the cop says he was just standing there a second ago. Now he's gone. I didn't even blink. And she goes, he climbed through the hole. I felt it. The 10-Eyed Man climbed through the hole in the world, which he sensed in her head. The hole in Gotham City. Well, they do explain it. It just doesn't make any goddamn sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Wait, he crawled through the hole in her head? I mean, she didn't literally have a hole. She has a hole from whatever's being removed from kind of the collective memory of Gotham City. Like, yeah, I'm going to stop right there because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But a lot of what Dan Waters has been doing with the 10-Eyed Man has been very esoteric in the first place. So kind of take it with a grain of salt anyway. The thing is that I thought the 10-Eyed Man, before they've made him this weird, out there, insane character, was kind of a fun, interesting character, kind of like a Kite Man character, right? Like you hear, a 10-Eyed Man, the guy's got an eye on every finger. That's sort of crazy and kooky. And now they've made him like this weird, scary horror character. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. Anyway, moving on, we have Green Arrow number 4, written by Joshua Williamson, art and cover by Sean Izaakse, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Troy Petrie. Here's another one, I think, that really suffered from the break with Night Terrors, because I feel like because of the way that it's structured, with the mystery that Joshua Williamson built in, all the different memories of the Green Arrow family are thrown across different dimensions, different parts of the multiverse, different time periods. And every time they try to remember things or come together, some force is pulling them apart. Very mysterious. We're not exactly sure what's going on. And so it's very much like a mystery. And then you get a 2.5 month break. And you're trying to, like, it hasn't even really gotten going. The story hasn't even really gotten going. And then you get this big break. So we saw at the end of issue 3 many months ago that Hal Jordan showed up, but Parallax Hal Jordan showed up. And so he's confronting Oliver Queen, and they're talking about their past history, and Queen saying, I know you're not really Hal, and because, this is in Hal's past and what have you. So they end up getting in a fist fight. It's very Oliver Queen. I will give Williamson credit for that. It's very Oliver Queen to say, hey, no bows, no arrows, no power rings. We're just going to get into a fist fight. And sure enough, during that fight, Oliver Queen basically gets the upper hand and forces this being, whoever he is, to show that he's not actually Hal Jordan. And he leaves him stranded wherever this entity took Oliver Queen to fight. Like, it looks like ruins of Earth or whatever. And he's saying this, if you get together with your rest of your Green Arrow family, this is what the future holds for Earth and what have you. And then at the end, Oliver Queen is there, and this old, what looks to be like an old Oliver Queen, bald, blind in one eye, almost looks like an old man Hawkeye, basically confronts Oliver Queen. So maybe he's going to explain everything. I feel like all along we've gotten these characters that are supposedly going to show up here or there and kind of explain what's going on. Because again, we still don't know what the hell's going on, which is why that 2.5 month break is so irritating. The other thing that happens in the story is Roy Harper, along with Black Canary, is trying to get some answers of where Oliver is, where his daughter Leanne is, and what have you. So you've got that part of it going on as well. So it's an interesting enough story. It does feel like it's a little slow in the pacing. Like, for 4 issues in, I feel like we should be a little further along than we are, and we should have a few more answers. But that, again, might be a byproduct of such a long layoff. So I do love the art. I do love the colors. Very, very good storytelling, narratively, visually rather, from Sean Izaakse, and the colors really pop off the page, and the action scenes are handled really, really well. So I am enjoying this. I'm ready to be a little further along. So yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Rock?
Well, my favorite part of the issue is when Roy Harper and Black Canary, when they go into a bar and they're following a lead, and they end up, Roy Harper is there for a specific purpose, to call somebody out. And that, of course, ends up being revealed to be Cheshire, his former lover and mother to Leanne. And it's about bloody time. I was wondering, because I thought, good Lord, you're not going to actually have the Green Arrow family. Suddenly there's a Green Arrow family, and now you're going to have a Green Arrow family most of them are looking for Leanne, and you're not going to have Cheshire in the story? Come on. Well, thank you, Joshua Williamson, for bringing us Cheshire back. Cheshire is a villain. She is a killer, and she is the mother of Leanne, and she is exactly the type of drama that you want introduced into this story. And so I'm looking forward to that. My personal wish, which will probably never happen, but I would love it. I would love to see a Roy Harper, Cheshire, and Leon miniseries. How's that for a family? Honey, I'm home. What did you cook? Well, Cheshire's known for being very good with poisons, so you wouldn't want her to be your wife cooking you supper every day. But in any event, I don't imagine there's going to be any domestic bliss in Roy Harper and Cheshire's future, but they're a wonderful dysfunctional set of parents for Leon, and I'm glad that Cheshire's been introduced to the story in the way she was. This has been very slow going. Another comic that obviously suffered tremendously from Night Terrors, but we're back on track. Williamson is putting all the pieces in place. He's getting these characters down. These characters are familiar. He's doing a good job with the characterizations. It's a little slow going, but this is going to read good as a 6 issues. I can't believe it's only 6 issues long, but I think this will be a good read as a trade, and it'll get people on board. And I hope it continues. I hope its sales are good enough. I think they will be beyond the 6th issue, because this really should continue on as a series, because I'm already liking it. And full bias, I love Cheshire, and I hope that she stays as a dysfunctional member of this Green Arrow family team, because every family needs a black sheep, and she's like the crazy aunt. That's Cheshire. You got to have an aunt that's a supervillain. Why not? That just adds to it so well. So yeah, I didn't mind the issue because of her.
Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of the series that Williamson's doing right now with DC are all like limited. And again, you wonder, I talked about this before, or maybe I talked about it online, but the fact that Williamson's doing G.I. Joe stuff over at Skybound, I guarantee Skybound pays more than DC does. And, you gotta have a little more freedom working with Robert Kirkman than you do with DC, Warner Brothers, Discovery, and what have you. Plus, the other thing is, like, Williamson, he's been at DC, and not just at DC for a while now, but he's been the guy at DC, right? Like, it's almost like when you love something, like if you binge it, right? If you just eat a ton of like chocolate ice cream and eat nothing but chocolate ice cream for dessert for like 2 years, you get kind of sick of chocolate ice cream. You want to take a break, So there's every possibility. And I don't know anything. I haven't talked to Josh. Maybe he's the reason these are all coming to an end. Like Batman and Robin, what have you, the rumors of him being done with Superman are all because he's, going to concentrate on his Crater Own stuff and the G.I. Joe stuff. Because he can't write everything, and maybe he's just ready for a break from DC. I have no insider knowledge. Just kind of feels like we could be headed that direction. All right, on to the next limited series. I mentioned the We Are Legend stuff previously. Here's another one of their titles, Spirit World, from writer Alyssa Wong. Haining is the artist, Sebastian Cheng on colors, Steve Wan's on letters. Here we go again, another one that really suffered from the break. Hard to remember what's going on. In the last issue, it seemed that in the underworld or the afterlife or whatever you want to call it, wherever our characters are, basically, Constantine and Xanthi and Cassandra Cain. Constantine and Cassandra Cain were sort of possessed by something, some power, some whatever, the big bad, if you will, that's going after Xanthi, that wants to control the underworld and what have you. And so Xanthi is able to temporarily free them, give them back some of their own agency, because it's not their minds that are being controlled, it's just their bodies and their abilities. But she goes out her way to say, hey, this is just a temporary reprieve. I haven't purged, whatever this power is that's controlling you. And they go to see the Jade Court, who, excuse me, the Jade Court, who are sort of the rulers of the afterlife, if you will. And we're not exactly sure what they want, what they're doing, what they have to do, other than Xanthi's kind of spiritual afterlife grandmother, Popo. It turns out that she's one of them. So there's a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of sort of Asian mythology, spirit world mythology and what have you in this. And this is another one that there's so much in here. We talked about it before. Specifically, I think we were either when we were going from issue 1 to issue 2 or issue 2 to issue 3, how it had a little bit of a jump. There's so much here that Alyssa Wong is trying to pack in that it can be confusing, because it's not being as we're not being spoon-fed as readers. So I think going back when everything is all said and done and reading it as a trade or reading it all in one sitting, it's going to make more sense. There's so many characters and it's moving so fast. And again, I understand why, because there's a lot to do here. There's a lot of characters. There's new characters constantly being introduced. The art's fantastic, really colorful. But my God, between the amount of new characters, the mythology that I'm not that familiar with, the powers of Xanthi, which aren't well established, the powers of this, the villain, the Jade Court, whatever they are, like it's just a lot. It's just a lot. And unless you're really focusing on this and reading it several times, I think a lot of it can slip through the cracks. So I feel like it's not really landing for me, but I feel like it's on me. It's not that it's not being done well. There's just so much here that I feel like I need to go back and do probably a couple rereads of the series if I really want to get everything out of it, because I think Xanthi is an interesting character. There's a lot to her. She has a lot of potential. So from that aspect, I'm enjoying it. And I think the line work by Haining is great. The color work by Sebastian Cheng is great. So yeah, this was one of those things, right? It's so many comics. I just don't have time to go back and reread and really dive into it the way that I wish I could. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you that there's a lot of rich mythology here that I think that writer Alyssa Wong is doing her best to sort of try to give us a lot of substance in the opening 6-issue arc. I mean, in this issue alone, we're introduced to the inhabitants of the Jade Tower. Right. Inhabitants of the Jade Tower, consisting of the Prince of Dawn, the Carmine Star, the Amber Apostle, the Snowfall Blade, the Gilded General, the Cobalt Advisor, the Verdant Sorceress, and these were these were sort of like, this is sort of like the magical corporate gurus of the Jade Tower that make up Spirit World, and they sort of they make the rules for Spirit World. But of course, Spirit World is sort of there's a little bit of corruption going on, and they're kind of all bitches, quite frankly, all these sorcerers. And unfortunately, it ends up being that Xanthi's grandmother, Poo-Poo, is apparently one of them, the Verdant sorceress.
Well, I will say, in their defense, before we call them the B word, they are gods. So you do expect some level of arrogance.
Sure.
So in that way, they're they're no different than like Olympian gods or Roman
certainly.
gods or whatever.
Absolutely.
They're all dicks.
Oh, certainly. I agree with you 100%. And so, yeah, they act like gods, goddesses, God. Both gender gods are awful. In any event, but the Spirit World is being attacked by this creature that wants to, I think, destroy. We're not even sure what the agenda is. But this creature actually wants to particularly kill Xanthi and Constantine and Cassandra Cain. And these gods in the Jade Tower, these goddesses don't want to help. Rather than help them immediately, they want to see what happens first. They kind of want to see, they're so indifferent to the plight of the people in Spirit World that they don't care how many of the people in the Spirit World will actually die. And they don't even want to send out their mighty knight. They got this knight character, their protector that would go out, and they won't even release him.
Golden General, right?
Yeah, the Golden General or something. And and eventually they do release him to fight, to basically help Constantine and Cassandra Cain fight and Xanthi fight this creature. But it's quite clear that there's different agendas going on here. So in fairness to Alyssa Wong, there is a story here. One of the things that I really do wish we had more of a background. I feel like I did when I was like 7 or 8 years old, when I first jumped into Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. There was so much I didn't know, and it was like, oh God, I got to buy all these. I got to buy like 200 back issues, but I'm going to buy them because I'm interested. I actually am interested to know what the backstory to this Jade Tower is. It's interesting, but at the same time, I do feel like I've missed like 2 or 3 story arcs, but yet this is the first story arc. So, and that's not a bad thing, because I am curious. and I'm interested. And these are interesting characters. So I want to give Alyssa Wong some credit there. And to her credit, she's not insulting the reader's intelligence. She's challenging us. She's saying, pay attention, read, and that's what I'm doing. And I only read this once. I apologize. I probably should have read it 2 or 3 times. There's just too many damn comics this week. But this was, I am curious to see how this ends. And I'm hoping maybe sometimes final issues in these story arcs explain a little bit more of what went on. So I'm to give a little bit more clarity. But I will be rereading this after later this week. But I thought overall this wasn't bad. I thought we had a little bit more plot development here and character movement. And I do think that Alyssa Wong has imbued some humor with Constantine and has managed to capture the voice of Cassandra Cain, okay, and Xanthi. I'm starting to like Xanthi. At first, I was a little bit annoyed with her character. I wasn't sure if I liked her or not, but she's grown on me, and there's a lot of similarities to how this comic has grown on me, similar to the Monkey Prince. So, and I'm glad about that. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. It's like I want to either have Alyssa Wong on, like, can you just explain this to me? And then there's part of me that's like, well, it's not the best job in terms of writing if the writer has to actually explain everything to me. But again, it's a problem of real estate on the page, and just I think she has so many big ideas, and she wants to tap into the richness of the Asian mythology and afterlife and what have you. And Xanthi, yeah, she is a likable character, and the way she's drawn, like it's so fantastic with the giant sword and kind of that innocent, it does have some manga influences, obviously with the big eyes and what have you, shows a lot of emotion. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So I either want that, hey, let's get her on, we'll go issue by issue. Can you explain to me what's going on? Or just give us like the director's cut, right? Like we get those issues sometimes with the script, and when you read the script, it has more notes in it so we can understand what's going on. This is probably not selling well enough to do something like that. Usually it's stuff that sells really well, like Mr. Miracle and Dark Knight's Death Metal and what have you. So, but yeah, she is a compelling character. I at some point I will make time to reread the whole thing, probably after all of it comes out. We'll see. All right, Batman Brave and the Bold number 5. We finally have the next installment of Tom King and Mitch Gerads' Joker Story, The Winning Card, Part 3. Also, Stormwatch, Down with the Kings, Part 5, from writer Ed Brisson and Jeff Spokes, with Seda Tamafanti on letters. And then Harcourt, Emilia Harcourt, we had Part 1 from Rob Williams' last issue of Brave and the Bold. Now we have Part 2, art by Stefano Landini, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by Simon Bolin. And then Angel of Gotham, which is a black and white story written by Ed Brisson, Jorge Fornes on art, Clem Robbins on letters. I think I forgot to give Clayton Cowles credit for letters on Batman the Winning Card, which you definitely got to give him credit because, it's kind of like a silent movie. We get those black panels where, just like a silent movie, flash up on the screen. And it's all about the Joker playing knick-knack, paddywhack. And I will say that the way that Mitch Gerads is drawing the Joker here, where his eyes are all black with just like these glowing white pupils, really freaks me out. But this is a Joker story, maybe what you would consider the first Joker story in terms of him going up against Batman, or Batman, trying to stop him.
Yeah.
I do feel like, I do feel like it's not exactly the most original, but it is a very interesting vibe, because it's only silent movie whenever it's a Joker page. And then the rest of the time, Alfred's talking, Batman's talking, Jim Gordon's talking. And I do, probably the thing I like about it the most is how underpowered Batman seems to be, right? Like it's the opposite of power creep, whatever that is, because we've talked so many times about everybody trying to one up. Every writer comes on, they want to tell their Batman story, and you got to do it better and bigger than the previous guy. And so Batman's got this power creep to the point where now he's jumping from the moon and landing on Earth. Like he's Superman and surviving. It's just absolutely insane, just ridiculous. This is the opposite of that. Like Alfred's beating the shit out of him in this story. So I do like that. It's a very it's a Batman that lacks self-confidence. On the other hand, this is a Joker that's like genius level, doesn't seem insane at all. Almost like a a Kevin Spacey serial killer in Seven type intelligence, where he's like 7, 8, 9 steps ahead of everybody else, including Batman. So yeah, again, like some of the other stories we've talked about so far, the art and the tone of the story fit each other perfectly. This might be the best Joker art I've seen Mitch Gerads do. Like, Joker is creepy and scary, and Joker doesn't, in this story, he doesn't even really feel like a character. Really, he feels more like a force of nature, or like an evil, entity, an evil spirit, like, supernatural ability to appear and disappear and be invisible and what have you. Like, he's that powerful. He's that much smarter than everybody. Like, even when he kills the judge that he threatens in this issue, he goes in there, apparently master of disguise, not only a master of disguise, making himself look exactly like the chief of police, but also he's an expert imitator as well. Right? He can do an impersonation of the chief of police because he talks. He's talking. He's sitting right across the table from this judge and another officer, and he's talking, and he must sound exactly like the police chief because they're not suspicious at any point. So, yeah, interesting story. Again, it's Batman, it's Joker. We all know how I feel about those characters. Overused, but it's well done. It's technically a very well done comic. So, yeah. What are your thoughts?
It is basically a reimagining of Batman, of the first issue of Batman. That's what Tom King based it on. So it's the same plot as the very first issue of Batman way back in 1939 or whatever that is. So it's sort of like a reinterpretation of what it would be in the modern day. So that explains some of the angles of which I think some of the interesting things about the portrayal of the Joker in particular, and even Batman being injured. I mean, this is a Batman in his first year. He's never encountered anyone at the level of Joker. Joker is basically maybe not Batman level, but close enough to Batman level that Batman is not accustomed to fighting anyone even close to his level of fitness, his level of skill, his level of intellect. And here we have somebody who is close to that level, and also his level of intellect as well, and that's the Joker. And Batman here is just plain stupid. Batman is so stubborn, is so driven that he doesn't have the shut off switch in his head to say, look, you need to heal. I mean, Batman got the shit kicked out of him last I guess 2 or 3 issues in the last chapter of this story. Batman got beat up. He lost his battle with the Joker rather handily, and he's injured. But it's so bad that he instead of resting, he goes out and he ends up passing out in front of James Gordon, for God's sakes. And James Gordon actually ends up trying to takes the walkie-talkie from Batman, trying to say, hey, hello. And then Alfred says, put him in the car and we'll do the rest. and it's kind of a funny scene. So Jim Gordon, of course, does that. And then the Batmobile closes and off goes Batman to Alfred. And then the only thing that baffled me about this is I didn't quite understand why Batman was asking Alfred to hit him. He was already injured, and then he wanted Alfred to keep injuring him and hitting him in the face some more. Was that to try to wake him up or toughen him up? That made no sense to me. He could barely stand as it was, and he wants Alfred, like, I think he was going all alpha male there. Yeah, hit me again, wake me up so I can go, beat the hell out of me so I can be inspired to go fight the Joker again. I didn't quite get that because Alfred kept hitting him. That didn't make any sense to me. And I didn't think Alfred would intentionally want to injure him and make him more injured. So I didn't get that scene. I didn't understand what the point of that was. Or maybe I do. It didn't quite mesh. But other than the fact that this Batman is so badass that, he even lets his butler kick the shit out of him to rile him up and give him some adrenaline. I don't know. You'd think if he wants to rile himself up, why wouldn't Alfred just give him a shot of adrenaline or something, or dopamine or something to perk him up instead of hitting him across the face? I didn't quite get that, but again, interesting story. It's still it's all right. It's all right. It'll probably read better as one full. It'll be collected eventually in one full story. As a quick digression, I'm not a big fan of this Brave and the Bold. I haven't been collecting this series because I just object to the series. I refuse to. I'm not buying this series. Despite the fact that my favorite story, Stormwatch, which is next, is in it. I'm hoping they're going to collect these stories separately so I can decide whether or not I can get them. But
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying previously about anthologies. I like it. I like the idea, and so we get some good stories here. But there's just too much Batman. It's too much Batman.
It's too much.
Yeah. Put out Batman and Detective and one other Batman book, and if it's this anthology, great. But that should be it. But anyway, I do agree with you in terms of Batman getting. It's like I want to be able to take punishment, so Alfred hit me. Like it comes across as twofold. He feels like he deserves to be punished because he hasn't been able to stop the Joker, but also it's like that scene from Happy Gilmore where he puts the money in the batting cage so the balls can hit him in the chest. And then Carl Weathers walks over, Chubbs. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? You're making me sick." He's like, "I've got to toughen up. Only 364 days until the next hockey tryout." That's what it's like. He's trying to toughen himself up by letting his butler kick the crap out of him. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, speaking of the Stormwatch story, starting to come together, starting to get some ideas of what's going on. The precognition of Ravager here as they take on the god Apollo basically allows her to see that Mr. Bones hasn't been fully honest with them, or Director Bones. I know that comes as a shock. I don't know why they're mad at him, and they act surprised. She's mad. No more secrets. Like, do you know who you're talking to? It's Director Bones. Of course he's all about the secrets. Like, you're not even the boss here. Yes, I am. What are you talking about? And then, of course, the real boss shows up. Of course, it's Amanda Waller. Of course, I don't have anything to say other than I can't stand Amanda Waller. She's getting to be up there with the level of Batman and Joker, and just her overuse. I don't really have much else to say. I'm a fan of Ed Brisson. I'm a huge fan of Ed Brisson. And I think with what DC's done with, Waller versus Wildstorm, and her in the pages of just about everything, and her in the having her fingers in everything right now, and wanting to take out the Justice League and whatever. I don't know how Ed Brisson tells this story about Director Bones sending Stormwatch out to collect all these different weapons to go out and take on the Justice League. And just to bring everybody up to speed, what he has told Stormwatch is that, hey, we're going out there to gather these weapons in case the Justice League comes after us, we'll be able to defend ourselves. What they're really doing, what Bones is really doing, is sending them out to collect these weapons so they can preemptively go out and take on the Justice League per the orders of Amanda Waller. So that's completely different. But Bones tries to spin it. It's the same thing. We're just going to go take them out before they get the chance to come and take us out. I will also say that it feels very Wildstorm universe, in that that's what kind of the Stormwatch and the Authority both were, this idea of a more proactive superhero team. So it's definitely rooted, this idea of this story, the big idea of the story is very much in keeping with, what the idea of Stormwatch or the Authority was back in the day. So I appreciate that. I don't know, again, how Ed Brisson tells this story without bringing in Amanda Waller, as much as that means I have to see her, and I don't like to see her because I just don't. I'm sick of the character. But yeah, this is good. It's interesting. I do really like the interaction. I've said it before, the characterization and the interaction, the interplay between the characters that Ed Brisson gives us. And this isn't necessarily your typical Stormwatch team. We do get some kind of classic Wildstorm characters, but Flint, what have you. But we're getting Ravager, we're getting Peacekeeper 1. These are characters that are DC universe original characters, but that are like who they are as characters fits in so well with who Stormwatch is. So I really like that, much more so than like when the New 52 relaunched, and they relaunched with the Stormwatch title, and it was Martian Manhunter that was like Stormwatch. It never made any sense. He could be the most by the book character, other than maybe Barry Allen, classic Barry Allen. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the Stormwatch story?
This was my favorite story of the issue by far. I've been quite enjoying Stormwatch and Brave and the Bold, and I hope they collect these stories in a separate comic book because it deserves it in my mind. I love these characters: Phantom 1, Core, Peacekeeper 1, Shadow, Ravager. Their mission is to steal the Sunbow, which is a weapon in the possession of Apollo. And what I find very interesting is that Apollo is the version of Apollo that it was in Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman run. That's how Apollo looked in Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman run. And I'm thinking to myself, that's awesome. Now, I don't for 1 minute believe that they're embracing Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman iteration, but this particular version of Apollo, I like this version of Apollo. It's awesome. I'm glad they're using it. He's got dark. He basically looks. He looks basically he's like a human being, but he's completely, totally charcoal black with red eyes, and yeah, he's got the power of the sun, and of course he's got the sun bow, and that's a weapon that Stormwatch wants. Stormwatch, who it's revealed, as you said, is revealed. Surprise, surprise. Amanda Waller is in control of Director Bones. We predicted that. I don't know how many months ago, and of course that's part of the key agenda. What's interesting here is the motivation that Apollo had to have the Sunbow was to actually kill Zeus. And maybe somebody should tell Apollo that Zeus was already killed? How many times does Zeus get killed? I mean, wasn't Zeus killed by Hera? And then he's back, and now Zeus is alive back in the pages of Shazam, and now Apollo wants to kill him again. Do these people not realize apparently you can't kill Zeus? Again, that's DC editors for you. Nobody communicates between these storylines, but Apollo's big agenda is to kill Zeus, and then, of course, to basically take over Olympus. And Ravager saw this because Ravager has precognition sort of abilities, but they were enhanced when she was like hit with a bow from the arrow, which was sort of interesting. And so I just liked what Ed Brisson did with all the power sets here, with all the characters. I love that Core basically exploded, and Core's powers were enough to take down the sun god Apollo here. That's awesome. So I just like the power sets. I love the choreography of the fight scenes, and I really love the art. I thought it worked really well, and so definitely my favorite story of the anthology.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I don't know if it's my favorite though, because I really like the next story, the Emilia Harcourt story, part 2. Rob Williams is the writer. Again, Amanda Waller, she's been brought back. We don't know if it's Lazarus Resin. We don't know if it's Lazarus Pit. We don't know exactly how she was brought back. But what we do know is Amanda Waller lied to her. And right off the bat, it seems like she's already getting back her true memories. And despite being told by Amanda Waller that it was Weapon Master that killed her, she realizes as she's about to kill Weapon Master to get her revenge that it wasn't Weapon Master. And so she starts to walk away, and Weapon Master's like, oh, thank God, I'm going to, I don't know who you are, but I didn't kill you. And, Emilia Harcourt memories come back enough to where she realizes that the guy's telling the truth. But then she ends up killing him anyway, which sort of sets the tone for who this version, I guess we'll say, of Emilia Harcourt is going to be. Because she still knows what says that Weapon Master is going to be basically is a bad guy. But it's great. He's like, yeah, I don't know who sent you after me, because I got to say, they lied to you. And she's like, yeah, you're right. You're probably right. She shoots him anyway. So it definitely feels very, very checkmate, very spy thriller type. Despite the fact it ties in with Amanda Waller, I'm liking this story. Again, it's not the most original idea, I guess if we think about it, a little bit of like the Bourne movies with Matt Damon, right? Like he's got these abilities and he's out there and he's like killing people left and right, but he doesn't really know who he is. Like his memory's been wiped. So Emilia Harcourt, obviously her memories have been wiped because she was killed and brought back by Amanda Waller in some way. And so I think this will be her out there trying to find answers, while probably taking people out along the way. So we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I haven't read a lot of stories previously with Emilia Harcourt, a lot of checkmate stuff and what have you. Just never read that stuff before. So I am enjoying this. What did you think?
Yeah, she's a popular character on the Peacekeeper show, so it only makes sense to revive her in the comic books. And hey, we got all that Lazarus resin, we might as well use more of it, right? And so yeah, go ahead, revive her. I mean, good Lord, DC's been been reviving and creating all kinds of characters. Why not bring one that's popular from from a popular DC TV show? So it's good to have her. And I like the fact that she's more likable than Amanda Waller. Now it's funny. I like the Amanda Waller on the Peacekeeper TV series more so than I like the Amanda Waller in the comics. But I like this Earhart character, or Harcourt character, sorry. I like this Harcourt character very much on the Peacekeeper series. And this one here, she's definitely badass. And I'm not really sure, why she's so loyal. I guess her father her origin is hinted at here. Maybe her father was one to follow orders and was a badass, and he followed orders, and he was a killer too, and so was Harcourt. But I'm hoping Harcourt is a little bit more complicated than that. She probably is. I'm hoping she's not as complicated as Amanda Waller is, because Amanda Waller is borderline confusion. Amanda Waller, unfortunately, has denigrated into a character who, frankly, I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, badly written or misunderstood, or different writers conceive of Amanda Waller very differently, because she's been written very differently, and we're supposed to be leading into this big event with Amanda Waller wanting all the supervillains to kill all the superheroes and give them a pardon if they do, even though she's not the president. She doesn't have the authority to do that and all this other nonsense. And she's supposed to be on Earth 3, but isn't. What the hell is Amanda Waller to anybody? And then along comes Harcourt, who's now probably the most loyal soldier to Amanda Waller. I think that's who this Harcourt's supposed to be in this DC universe, but we shall see moving forward.
Yeah, Amanda Waller's becoming extremely unlikable. That's part of it. The other part of it is she's become a plot device. She's not actually a character. She's just a plot device to introduce, new concept or whatever. So yeah, you're right. There's no consistency of characterization. She's become almost a caricature of, who she actually is. And it's too bad. It's too bad. Anyway, the last story, Ed Brisson is the writer. It's very bleak. The Jorge Fornes art reminds me a lot of Batman Year One, which I've heard that before about Fornes' art, very much reminiscent of David Mazzucchelli. That's really shown here. As far as the story itself, oh my God, is this bleak? This could be the bleakest story I've ever read from Ed Brisson. The fact that basically these characters, these angels of Gotham, if you will, are out here, and they're basically they dress up like angels, and they hold signs up, and they want people to not forget the victims of Gotham who have died, right? That's their point. That's why they do what they do. And so when they do that, there's nobility there. And so one of them gets killed while doing this. And the thought being that somebody that was worried about the fact that they were going to be exposed basically must have been behind the killing. And so Batman investigates it and finds out, no, one had nothing to do with the other. It was just a totally random killing. So a couple things, right? First of all, that's super depressing that, that people are just, you're just out there trying to do your best in Gotham, trying to make it a better place, and you just get killed. And the other part of it goes back to, why would anybody ever want to live in Gotham City? So it's a bleak story, but it's a very hard-boiled crime noir with absolutely fantastic art. So from that perspective, I thought it was really, really good. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I really don't have much to add. The art's fantastic. I don't see a lot of Jorge Fornes' art in black and white, but man, it's really good. It really pops off the page. It's meant to be a dark and brooding tale, and that's exactly what it is. The art absolutely fit the tone of this story. And yeah, I thought the story, for what it was very well told. Ed Brisson's actually pretty good at telling these sort of like one shot, these sort of short stories. So yeah, I thought it was good. I'm not, I guess this is an anthology. Going back to our earlier comments about, I don't know why this story needs to be in here to sort of pad it and increase the price point. Why? I mean, you've got two fairly high profile stories with the Batman 1 remake by Tom King and the Stormwatch, which is leading into arguably a bigger event into 2024. But hey, I can't complain. Ed Brisson's a great writer, and Jorge Fornes is a fantastic artist, and it's in black and white, and so yeah. But I hope people can appreciate it. But I think I'd be really curious to know how many people are actually picking up this Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is a very technically well done comic, but my God, is it depressing as well?
Yeah.
So. All right, because it's Batman, we got to talk about him some more. Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War, Red Hood #1, written by Matthew Rosenberg, art by Nikola Cizmesija, colors by Rex Locust, letters by Troy Petrie. I got to admit that this didn't necessarily feel like it fits into the current Gotham War in terms of the relationship between Catwoman and Red Hood. Like it doesn't seem like it makes sense with where they were, with how we saw them interacting with each other, and where they are in terms of their relationship in the Batman or the Catwoman issue that we had recently. This felt wonky. I didn't understand what was going on. But that being said, if we just take this on its own with Red Hood, man, I love the way Matthew Rosenberg writes Red Hood. It's not, I don't enjoy it quite as much as I enjoy him writing Grifter, but it's close. It's really close. Like that when he starts to train Catwoman, some of Catwoman's thugs, and he's giving them a bad time. It's almost like a scene out of Full Metal Jacket with like a drill instructor giving them a hard time and what have you. So I enjoyed that. I do feel like Matthew Rosenberg does have a good handle on Jason Todd's characterization, the trauma that he carries with him, the anger, his hang up and obsession with the Joker, like all that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it didn't, I don't know that it necessarily, I'm just not sure where it fits in with the previous parts of Gotham City, the Gotham War that we've had so far, because it really seemed like in the latest Catwoman issue that Jason Todd and Catwoman were getting along a lot better than they do here. This does start off like 2 weeks ago. And then that also made me think, well, what about that meeting? So is this before the meeting that they had that where Rocky and I had so much discussion on? So yeah, it's just, you know what? If you're going to do these events, you got to tell them, you got to do it linear. You really got to do it linear. Even if it's, different writers, you got to make it make sense. You can't do, okay, here's the kickoff issue. Here's the Batman tie-in. Here's the Catwoman tie-in. Oh, here's a Red Hood tie-in, but it fits in, like some of the pages fit in over here before this issue, and then some of the pages fit in over here after this other issue. Like, yeah, because it doesn't make sense. It's almost like this is like a standalone and not really part of Gotham War, but just set during that Gotham War time. But again, even if that's the case, the Red Hood Catwoman relationship isn't vibing with what we are seeing in the Gotham War. But then again, the Batman Robin title and the way Batman Bruce Wayne acts in the first issue of that, where he's all chummy trying to be the good dad with Damian, doesn't really fit with the, flying off the handle, impulsive Batman that we saw in the other issues of Gotham War either. So who knows? I mean, to me, these are editorial mistakes where things aren't lining up correctly and not making sense in terms of relationships, where they stand currently. They're not consistent from one book to the next and what have you. So yeah, I enjoyed this as a standalone. As a tie-in to Gotham War, it left me a little bit confused. I did think the Nikola Cizmesija art was good, was fine for what we had here. And again, I really enjoyed the dialogue from Matthew Rosenberg. He really has a knack for putting some dark humor and some great one-liners in his dialogue. So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I think it's unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary for Gotham War, and I didn't quite have the issues that the problem you did, and maybe trying to fitting it into the timeline. I just sort of figured that while it's a little bit wonky, this is just Jason Todd. I mean, one of the things that Zardasky, Tini Howard, and Matthew Rosenberg, who and Matthew Rosenberg being the writer of this Gotham War Red Hood, Batman Catwoman Red Hood story, is they're all trying to, for some odd reason, they're really trying to establish that Catwoman has some sort of relationship or cares about Jason Todd. I mean, in the last issue of Gotham War, the last chapter, Selina really cared about, she didn't want Jason Todd to be hurt because it might upset Batman, but Batman was the one who, Jason Todd was the one that was attacking Batman, and she sent him to distract Batman to begin with, and none of it's really making any sense. I just think the characterizations overall just haven't worked for me. I just think I've been very disappointed with Gotham War overall, period. In this issue, we got two characters, Bash and Simpson, are two bad guys, two thieves that Red Hood takes it upon himself to try to essentially train. And he's going to work for Catwoman. He's going to train these thieves. So he trains Bash and Simpson to be good fighters. But what they don't know is that the Scarecrow has managed to infiltrate their organization or managed to inject some fear gas into Bash. And Bash becomes a little bit more paranoid, and Bash is fearful that the Scarecrow is going to show up. So when Bash and Simpson go on their first heist that Catwoman organizes for them, Bash gets all paranoid and fearful, primarily because of the fear gas that Scarecrow injected in him, and it almost goes awry, but and Bash and Simpson Bash ends up wanting to kill a cop because it ends up being an officer of the place they were going to rob ends up showing up, and Catwoman is, of course, we're training these guys to be experts and not to kill, and what happens? Well, Bash almost kills the officer, and Red Hood stops him, and then Red Hood gets into an argument with Catwoman, yelling at her, saying, what are you doing? And then Red Hood suggests that the only reason I agreed to work with you is that I wanted to see what you were up to, Catwoman. I wanted to see what you were up to, Selina, because your plan, it sounds stupid, right? You're training all these thieves, and then when it inevitably falls apart, now we're just going to have better thieves and better killers out there. That's all that's going to happen. And of course he's right. And that's what everyone who's criticized this storyline has said, myself included. And the bottom line is we kind of know that Selina's plan is a little bit, we know what the weaknesses of her plan are. It's got some advantages, but its weaknesses are significant. And this issue ends with Bash, one of the trainees, being killed, we believe by Scarecrow. There's a message written in blood above the body of Bash that says, "Get your own toys, Red Hood." And is that Scarecrow sending a message to Red Hood because Red Hood did train them? So now it's personal, I guess, for Red Hood. And so it's all right, but as a distraction to Gotham War, it's completely unnecessary. And I do think it doesn't, as I agree with you, Jace, it doesn't quite jive in terms of tone. And in my view, there's some inconsistency of characterization with respect to how Jason Todd's portrayed in Selina in Gotham War itself. But I agree with you that Matthew Rosenberg's dialogue itself, I don't mind his dialogue, and I've enjoyed his humor along with you throughout the various series that he's been doing for DC. So it's a little bit both hit and miss for me, this one.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, up next we have Batman Beyond Neo-Gothic, Chapter 3, or Issue 3, The Tomb of Owls, from writers Collin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Max Dunbar is the artist, colors by Sebastian Cheng, letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I actually thought that this one was, things are slowly starting to pick up more on this one. And I actually... We have Terry McGinnis in the bowels, in the subterranean bowels of Gotham, where he's sort of infiltrating the old Gotham City, where the sort of like the corpses and the corpse and the souls of the Court of Owls reign, and ultimately he's with this character called Catboy, whose name was actually, I guess, Kyle at one point. And anyways, this Catboy has magical powers. And the big reveal here is that this Catboy ends up being a character that was trained by an older John Constantine, which is very interesting. And so throughout this particular issue, we get images of the Batman Beyond and Catboy fighting the Court of Owls, and ultimately, fighting them to a standstill. And as they're fighting, Batman Beyond Terry is talking to Catboy, saying, tell me more about yourself. Tell me you got all this magical powers. Where did you get it? And ultimately, it's revealed that that's where the background that an older John Constantine, before he died, he taught Catboy a lot of his own tricks. And I thought that was interesting. Now, one of the things that I note that John Constantine has always been kind of a dick, or kind of like an a-hole, or kind of like a jerk.
He's a dick.
Yeah, he's a dick. And I wish Catboy was more of a dick, but he's not. Catboy's kind of a nice guy. I wish Catboy was, if we're going to have a character that was essentially John Constantine's next generation of John Constantine called Catboy in the Batman Beyond series, I kind of want him to be a little bit of a dick too. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. To me, I like to think that, if you're taught by an asshole, you got to learn how to be a little bit of an asshole yourself. I mean, I wanted more of that to show up with this Catboy character. The other aspects of the issue itself was just more of the battle. The art here, the artist by Max Dunbar. Yeah, was really good. It was it's very dark and gloomy, but it's got like there's a lot of green. You can tell it's underground, and the way that he drew the Court of Owls, with almost as if they're rotting and decaying, and they're talking about grasp the Kyle, take the boy, feed the garden, and then we grow. And they want to grow up, and they want to grow and rise and take over the new Gotham. And of course, this is all in conjunction with the new mayor himself, who wants to convert Gotham into a city of light. And so all this is going down underground, this battle against the old Court of Owls, the Catboy who are accessing magic that he learned from John Constantine. And all this is being revealed as Terry McGinnis and Catboy fighting the Court of Owls. And then it ends on a cliffhanger. And I thought it was very well done. I think Kelly and Lanzing as writers here they've packed a lot of substance into each issue. We're only 3 issues in here. And I feel like we're 6 issues in. But I feel that each issue was easy to access, was easy to catch on to. And I like this Catboy character, and I like this world. And I'm not a Batman Beyond. I don't consider myself a Batman Beyond fan, to be honest, although I enjoy the character. It's not a character that I would readily embrace, but I'm enjoying this series, and I'm remembering it too. I remember the previous 2 issues, and that's saying something, because if I can remember I read a lot of comics. If I can remember the previous 2 issues, that's a pretty good sign. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of the reason we have such a hard time remembering is because of the big break. But you're right. I am remembering. We know it tied in. Like last time we had Batman Brave and the Bold story with this underground garden and what have you. And we know that it tied in with this. And it's just so interesting that we're going the other direction, right? Like so often with Batman Beyond. Again, not the biggest Batman Beyond fan. Not that familiar with it, but I do know that so much of what Batman Beyond has been, it's above, right? In the new Gotham City, above when everything was built up. And it's so much of him, on skyscrapers and flying between buildings, whatever. So interesting that now we're going down into the bowels of Gotham, lower and lower and lower. And as you go lower, it seems like the threats are getting bigger, right? First, he takes on Killer Croc, the Batman Beyond version of Killer Croc. Now it's the Court of Owls. Who knows what's going to come next. So yeah, the characterization is really interesting. The fact that we're carrying on with the same supporting cast. We're seeing Lumos, who we know is kind of almost becoming the antithesis or the nemesis of Terry McGinnis, at least for this period of Batman Beyond. I think he's Lumos. He's such a fascinating character. He reminds me kind of the John Byrne era of Superman, what Lex Luthor was, right? Where he flirts around with legitimacy, businessman, what have you. It's kind of hard to pin him down. kind of distances himself. And then Bean Boonma, former police officer with Gotham City Police Department. And yeah, this new supporting character, Kyle, this cat boy who has ties with Constantine, interesting as well. So yeah, I'm really enjoying what is being done here. Very additive to Batman Beyond. And again, not that I've read it all, but it does feel like, obviously this spins out of an animated series. Batman Beyond showed up animated first. And it just felt like a lot of what was in the comics was just sort of playing off what we'd already seen, whether it's the Jokers with a Z or, these other concepts from the animated series. And it really feels like nobody has added to the Batman Beyond mythos as much as these guys have. Like, clearly they have a love for the character, and I really like the world building they're doing. They're really expanding, and I think part of that was the clean break that they did by killing Bruce Wayne. I mean, obviously nobody wants to kill off Bruce Wayne, but it has freed Terry up to kind of be his own character, right? Not be constantly looking over his shoulder. Doesn't have that crutch, so to speak. So between that fresh writing and really a great made for a great jumping on point as well for both of us. But also the Max Dunbar art, as you mentioned, really, really strong. The color work as well, especially when we start talking about the pages with Lumos, where he's so bright, it literally looks like he's glowing on the page. So great work by Sebastian Chang. All right. Get to the first of our big debuts this week. I guess kind of highly anticipated. Certainly the last run on Flash, the Jeremy Adams era, was very, very well received by Wally West fans. We know Jeremy Adams is a huge West fan himself. So I think part of the reason that this Cy Spurrier written Flash book is so anticipated is everybody wants to see, okay, is it going to keep up the quality? Is it going to be good? We've heard cosmic horror. How does that fit in with Wally West and the Flash? Mike Deodato Jr. is the artist, Trish Mulvihill on colors, Hassan Otzman Elhau on letters. I'm going to let you go first, Rocky, because I have a feeling you enjoyed this more than I did, but I guess we'll see. What do you think?
Well, first I want to talk about the various covers. We had the Rose Besh covers. I decided to get all the Rose Besh. I'm getting all the Rose Besh variant covers for DC only because she's got such a unique, eclectic style. So I thought I'd get those. But I was hoping for a little bit more variety in the covers to have more reflective of the content. That's my constant complaint. But the covers are actually not bad. I actually like the cover by Mike Deodato Jr. of Mirror Master, who doesn't actually appear in the first issue here, but he does appear. His first appearance in the series is on the cover of one of the variant covers of issue 1. I thought was pretty good. I do have a bias. I love Mike Deodato's art, and I enjoy it in this issue. I believe you indicate that you're not a fan of his art, but I didn't. There's a lot of very different stylistic Flash covers here for this opening issue. Even Riley Rosmo's cover is actually kind of interesting. I didn't mind it. But in any event, what did I think of this? What did I think of this opening issue? This is not your Jeremy Adams Flash, but there are some references to Jeremy. There are some references to the things that Jeremy Adams introduced. Essentially, what this issue involves is. Something's wrong with the Speed Force. Something is wrong with the Speed Force. Max Mercury and Bart, they discover it. They fail to access the Speed Force. Something is wrong. Max sees a vision of a buffalo when they fail to access the Speed Force. Max sees a vision of this buffalo, and that's just the way that he. It's in essence stating that something is wrong with the Speed Force, and the vision was just he was given a vision that he could, in a particular manner that would relate to his past, and because that was part of his past culture, Buffalo, and then back in the 1900s, that's just what he saw. And meanwhile, Wally West has been experiencing pain when he's running at fast speeds. But Wally isn't telling anybody this. He doesn't even tell Mr. Terrific this. Wally is making a catastrophically stupid mistake. And it's a little bit, I'm surprised that Wally wouldn't tell anybody. That bothered me. That I mean, his own children have access to the Speed Force, and he's got Mr. Terrific by his side. He's a member of the Justice League. He's got members of the Flash family that are also reliant and have access to the Speed Force, and he's experiencing pain in the Speed Force, and he's not telling anybody. He's endangering their lives, and he should know better than that. But he doesn't tell anybody. And Wally goes on to fight Gorilla Grodd's forces. And as he's fighting Gorilla Grodd's forces in this issue, he encounters another speedster that he begins to refer to as the Indigo Streak. It's the color of indigo. And so this Indigo Streak is this mysterious streak that is working with Gorilla Grodd. And Grodd gives Wally his condolences at one point, saying sorry about you breaking up. And but we don't know what Grodd is talking about. What do you mean breaking up with the Speed Force? What is he referring to? We're not really sure. Grodd is there apparently at he seems to show up at different times making calculations involving the Speed Force. At one point when Flash stops Gorilla Grodd, Flash is actually on fire. And a couple of police officers are even abducted by Grodd, and nobody knows why. But here's where, but I want to say this. I don't say this with pessimism. I say this with, I actually like this. This was easy to follow to me. I thought this was easy to follow. I thought the art was excellent. But I do have a bias. I love Mike Deodato's art. I thought it worked really well here, and in particular, where it shines is while this central mystery of this poisoning or something's off with the Speed Force. I like there's the characterization of Linda of Wally's wife Linda, because Linda now, because she's no longer pregnant. She's given birth. She's a mother now, but she doesn't have access to the Speed Force anymore. And as she notes, Linda's perspective is different than the rest of the family now, because she's the only member of her family that is not a speedster. She doesn't have access to the Speed Force, and I love the angle that's writer Spurrier is taken with Linda. He says, at one point, I love the language he uses. He says, "The people she loves will live 1,000 moments in every one of her dull seconds." And that's how Linda is beginning to view it. Because at one point, Wally goes to talk with the kids, and she can tell, she knows they're talking at super speed, and that, she feels, part of her feels a little bit left out. And she is frozen in the amber of the ordinary. I thought what a wonderful phrase. Spurrier, I loved his use of language here. It was very poetic. It reminiscent a little bit of Ram V, but even surpassed him at parts. And I thought it conveyed very well for me what Linda was feeling, and that Linda has a different experience. Had a different experience when she was pregnant, because while she was pregnant, because she had access to the Speed Force, because of the baby growing, the Speed Force baby growing inside of her, who would be called Wade. She wrote 5 books. She saved the world and was very, very active. I mean, so she accomplished quite a bit there, and so I thought it was very interesting, the angle there with Linda. Wally does talk to Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific asks if the Speed Force is acting up. Wally does have a vision of this that tells him that the uncoiled, something called the uncoiled, are coming. But he doesn't tell Mr. Terrific about his vision. Reality is slipping. He's having hallucinations. And there's even a side mention of PJ, who is Mr. Terrific's son. Now that Mr. Terrific's son was introduced in the final issue of Jeremy Adams' Flash run, where Wally went into took off and was gone for many years, came back with a beard, but brought back some children. One of the children was Mr. Terrific's son is still alive, and Mr. T reveals that he has 3 hours of bonding per day with his son, PJ. We have not met PJ yet, but that might be in a future issue, so speculator alert. So we've got these gorilla gauntlets as well, this Indigo Speedster. It's all a mystery, and I thought it was intriguing. And all the while, we also got Maxine Baker and Irie are at school, and they have a diary similar to Jay's action log, which is referenced, which Jeremy Adams introduced, where Jay had an action log. and Maxine creates a distraction while Ira goes to check on Jay at the principal's office, only to find that Jay is found shirtless and crying in a room, and he's talking to some mysterious person, and we don't know who it is. So this is all serious stuff because, again, Wally knows something wrong with the Speed Force. It's affecting his son, Jay, probably his daughter as well. He's not saying anything to Mr. Terrific. There's going to be consequences here for Wally not being more on the ball than he is here. And I think this works. I think this works really well. And now, we also get another character at the end. A lot happened in this issue. A kid speedster named Chad tries to help Wally at the end when Grodd shows up again, but ends up getting recalculated, and his body becomes like a fractal monkey suit at the end, and he changes into something which looks really, really kind of like awful, and I don't know what he turned into, but there's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. But for a first issue, I thought this. I'm captivated. This pulls me in. I want to know where this is going. I didn't find this confusing. I found there was a lot there, but if I took the time to read it, the mysteries were there, and while not everything's explained, the mystery is established going into future issues. So. And I thought the art was tremendous, and I was quite happy with it. But do you think differently?
I 100% think differently. So, yeah. If you want to take the absolute high concept and say, okay, it's a very simple story. We're told for the gist of the story is there's something wrong with the Speed Force. Okay, you're right. That's a very simple idea. Unfortunately, Cy Spurrier throws tons of word salad at us, and I don't know why. It's so unnecessary for him to just throw these $9 words at us, even when you have scientists talking to other scientists. Can you tell this Blyo-voting imbecile that this theory is canonical in nature? There's no reason. There's no reason for it. This is not how... Like Cy Spurrier just trying to explain to us that you have a very, broad vocabulary. Guess what? I don't care. There's so many of those types of situations where he uses words that are just outside of people's everyday speech. It's going to turn people off. It makes it feel pretentious, and it doesn't come across as a simple story. Is it a simple concept? Yes, one could argue it's a very simple concept, and in fact, a very unoriginal concept. Oh my God, there's something wrong with the Speed Force. Well, that hasn't been explored 1 million times in The Flash. So between the body horror, between the overly complicated style of art that Mike Deodato uses now, like I think back to Deodato's art, like on Wonder Woman back in the day, how much I just loved it, and I just don't understand his style of art now, where he breaks panels 3 or 4 times a page. He bleeds into the borders, into the gutters. And oftentimes when you look at that extra art, it's not additive at all. Like he'll do, 5 or 6 panels across the page that are all the same scene. And I don't even know why there's panel breaks. So no, I'm not a particular fan of what Deodato's art, just his page layout. The art itself is fine, but I don't care for his panel layouts. I don't care for his page layouts. And I think that in terms of the story, yeah, the big idea of something wrong with the Speed Force is not, the biggest idea in the world or the most original, like I said, but it feels like Cy Spurrier is trying to make it complicated for the sake of making it complicated to make it seem smart. There's no reason for it. But when you have all the words and the vocabulary that seem overly complicated, and then you add in what feels like overly complicated page layouts to me, it just feels like a lot. And I have a feeling that you really couldn't go from doing something more different than what Jeremy Adams did than this. Like, this feels so like absolutely like they thought, let's find the story that is absolutely most antithetical to what Jeremy Adams did. Let's ask people for the most complicated, art style, the most complicated kind of story and mystery and what have you, and we'll do that. And it really makes no sense to me because Flash was selling really, really well with Jeremy Adams writing it. And this could not be more different in tone. So if that's what they wanted, if they wanted to go completely opposite in tone of what Jeremy Adams was doing, they succeeded. Is it interesting? Is it compelling in and of itself? Forget about anything that came before. It's mildly interesting. Again, the whole idea of cosmic horror has me a little worried. I'm, at this point, really sick of body horror. Really, and it feels like that's what we're going to get. You mentioned the kid that got turned inside out. I don't know what he turned into. He Flash said he got turned inside out. Literally, the guy got killed. His organs that are on the inside are now on the outside. It's not a, like a close up detailed shot or whatever. But again, it's a DC comic. It's not going to be too gross. But from what you see, it's pretty gross. And that doesn't, fill me with much hope. In fact, it fills me with a lot of trepidation when you talk about cosmic horror, body horror, that kind of thing. To me, the idea of Flash as a horror comic is never really going to work. So, we already have hints that all the speedsters on planet Earth need to be killed because they're basically, by tapping into the Speed Force, they're dooming us all. But one of the things I hate most in storytelling is happening here, and maybe this is what really has me turned off on the story more than anything. Wally's keeping secrets from Mr. Terrific and not telling him about what he thinks are hallucinations, but really are slips through the Speed Force or multiverse or whatever. So he's keeping secrets from Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific is keeping secrets from Wally. Wally's keeping secrets from Linda. Linda's keeping secrets from Wally. I dislike this so much. This type of storytelling, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel real. You know what happens? It's like a goddamn episode of Three's Company where shit goes sideways because there's a misunderstanding because fucking people don't tell each other what the fuck is going on. Just be honest with each other. Hey, Mr. Terrific, guess what? I'm having these slips. I'm having these hallucinations. Something bad is going on. Wally, it's a good thing you've mentioned that to me. Maybe we can get to the bottom of this. My scientists are telling me that by accessing the Speed Force all these years, the speedsters on planet Earth have hastened the demise. All of reality is in danger. But none of that's going to happen. Instead, the shit's going to hit the fan because Wally didn't tell Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific didn't tell Wally. Linda didn't tell Wally. Wally didn't tell Linda. Like all this garbage that's going to happen because people just didn't tell others what's going on. Does Wally not trust Mr. Terrific? Does Mr. Terrific not trust Wally? Like when there's something going on at my job that other people need to know that might affect them, guess what? I tell them. It's the laziest, stupidest kind of storytelling that is supposed to be disguised as smart because, I'm going to use 8-syllable words because I'm Cy Spurrier. And by the way, I'm going to get Mike Deodato, who's going to give me this super complicated page layout to make my story seem even smarter. So, yeah, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rant there, but yeah.
I don't think it's going to be successful. I have a feeling I'm going to be in the majority when it comes to the story of.
Yes. I believe you will. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm just trying to find some. I agree with you that the characterization seems a little off. All the secrets there, I think, I don't quite buy in that everyone would be that secretive to each other, coming out of Jeremy Adams' run. However, I am intrigued by the plot line, even though we have seen that. We've seen Speed Force stories before, no question about that. This one, maybe it's just the tone and the way it comes across. But fool that I am, I'm gonna err on the side of optimism.
Hey, I hope I'm wrong, and I eat my words, and I'm like, oh my god, this was so good, Cy Spurrier, rah. Yeah. I just, not liking it. All right, okay. Moving on. Tales of the Teen Titans #3, starring Donna Troy, written by Steve Orlando. Kath Lobo is the artist for pages 1 through 27, and then Bob Quinn handles the art on pages 28 through 30. Adriana Lucas on colors, Rob Lee on letters. I feel like the story does a good job of capturing the overall feel of who Donna Troy is, and kind of her doubts. The character, we know the inherent problems with it. Changing her origin, and she's Wonder Woman's daughter. She's Wonder Girl. She's not Wonder Girl. She's, just the fact that they even just refer to her as Donna Troy now rather than a Wonder Girl. So you can understand that. I'm glad that they tied that in. They could have gone a different direction with this story, which I'm sort of glad they didn't, but at the same time, it would have been nice. Like when I look at that main cover that you have up behind me, if people are watching on YouTube, like you even see a picture. It's by Nikola Scott, and the cover art's gorgeous. You even see when she got married to Terry. Was it Terry Long? I think his name was.
Yeah,
I know his first name was Terry, but so yeah, like a flashback of the different eras or whatever. But again, it's kind of hard to do that because what's actually still in canon and what's not, it can be a little problematic. So instead, what Steve Orlando does is he shows who Donna Troy is. Like, forget about any different retcons or changes in her origin or her relationships or what have you. Like, at the core, who Donna Troy is, Orlando captures that very, very well, right from the start. Right, and I will give credit for them tying it in a little bit to Tom King's Wonder Woman #1, because they do mention Axe, the Amazon extradition enforcement agency or whatever it is. Entity, there you go. But she's like, Donna Troy, I don't care about any of that. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to get to the truth, and that's who she is. And when she finds out something terrible is happening in Markovia, she doesn't delegate. She doesn't call the Titans. She just, she's like Superman in that way. She's just going to go and handle the problem. And so I appreciated that. It really, maybe more so than doing any sort of flashback or whatever, and then you have to worry about what's in continuity, what's canon, what's not. Just show her as a person of action, as a hero, with compassion and agency, and I really appreciated that. The art wasn't my favorite style of art. It was a little on the animated style, so I did like Bob Quinn's art better when we got the last couple pages with Nightwing and Donna talking. But I felt like Orlando did a good job of summing up who Donna Troy is by telling a new story and us seeing Donna Troy be badass and go into Markovia and take out this new Baron Bedlam. So if anybody's a big fan of the Outsider, Batman and the Outsiders from back in the day, or will remember Baron Bedlam, especially as drawn by Jim Aparo, the late great Jim Aparo. Well, this is his son who has similar powers. And yeah, there's mentions even to Dr. Helga, who was a character back then. I think she was one of the ones that gave Geoforce's powers, which we won't get into DC turning Geoforce into a villain, which still really bugs me. I guess he's more interesting as a villain, but man, he got done dirty. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is a great story. And I will say overall, these Tales of the Teen Titans have done a good job of kind of explaining who these characters are and introducing them to a new generation of readers. And I feel like that's been the point of them. And they've done a good job. I would even go so far as to say, as much as I disagree with Rocky when we talked about Teen Titans last time, he thinks it's going too slow. I think we're only a couple pages in. I will say these Tales of Teen Titans stories are better than the regular Titans series. Not that I'm not enjoying Titans, but these are doing a better job of being like complete stories and better paced, and you're getting more story in the same amount of pages than we are in regular Titans. That seems to be more of a slow burn. Anyway, what do you think of Donna Troy?
I thought this was a good one-shot issue. It's Steve Orlando. He wrote Wonder Woman for a good period of time, and he knows this character, and it tells. He knows Donna Troy, and thank God he does, because boy, it would be really easy for somebody to screw this character up, because Donna Troy's in competition with Hawk Girl, Hawkman, Power Girl, in terms of the most convoluted backstory in history as you could imagine. I mean, you could flip. It's a multiple coin toss to see which one of those characters is more convoluted. But, right from the opening page, he takes a page from Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman with 4 panels. A daughter discarded, a sister rescued, a warrior raised, a hero reborn. a hero born. That really does encapsulate very simplistically Donna Troy. And it works. And what I like about it is that, you know, she's a fashion photographer, and we have Vixen in here. Justice League is off the table. So when Donna Troy finds out that that Baron Bedlam is going to be making a move to take over as dictator of Markovia, she uses her connections with Vixen. Vixen has her own organization, international organization, that she utilizes to infiltrate Markovia. And you don't waste any time. It's in many ways, the story is perhaps a little overly simplistic, but it does the job because it conveys what Donna Troy is and what she stands for. It actually does a better job of conveying what she stands for than any story I've read of Wonder Woman conveying what Wonder Woman stands for. Although I really enjoyed Tom King's Wonder Woman #1, which did a good job, in my view, getting to the point of what Wonder Woman is. But I thought this was very well done. I like Kath Lobo's art. I thought it was really good, as well as the other artists you mentioned. I thought this was well done. I thought this is by far the best one so far. I enjoyed this more than the Raven. The Starfire one was a misfire for me. I was not a fan of the Starfire story. It was Raven. I didn't mind the Raven story, but it was a little convoluted. This one was more clear, concise, to the point, and really, I think I'm more excited for the character now. And the art was better. Straight up, the art was better. The art was more consistent with the beautiful cover by Nikola Scott. It's nice to have interior art that's more in keeping with the style on the cover, and I think that's just better for sales too. But this is my favorite cover so far, dude. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, Donna Troy, whew, she's hot. But yeah, I enjoyed this. It was a good issue.
Yeah, I will say that, in comparing this to Raven, the thing about the Raven issue was it was Raven taking on Trigon again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was nice to see Donna Troy take it. As soon as Baron Bedlam was mentioned and Markovia was mentioned, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Steve Orlando, which doesn't surprise me. Steve Orlando's he's a student of DC history as well, kind of similar to Jeff Johns in that way. So it doesn't surprise me that he's going to, go to the well, but there's so many interesting, locations and characters and whatever. And Markovia, we haven't seen it in a while, other than, like I said, the DC doing Geoforce dirty. So it was nice to see Markovia and references to Outsiders and what have you. So, okay. Up next, we have Static Shadows of Dakota #6, Battle of Wills, written by Nicholas Draper-Ivey and Vita Ayala. Art by Draper-Ivey, letters by Ann World Design. This issue, we know we got an extra issue of this. Instead of ending with issue 6, it's going to end with issue 7. I don't know if this was the extra issue or not. Very well may be. Maybe Ivy needed more time to finish the final issue, because this issue, and I have no idea how long it took him to do the art in this issue, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was a little less time than it takes him to do a lot of the issues, because it's really dark. It's a lot of big panels, and basically the whole issue is sort of an internal struggle between Static and Ebon, who's sort of I don't want to say the bad guy, but the antagonist of this story, right? We know Ebon's brother has been kidnapped by this nefarious organization that's after bang babies and what have you, and he's been trying to recruit Static to go out and kill these guys. He's more of a final solution type guy, and he calls Static hero in a derogatory way, many times throughout this issue. So that's sort of the whole issue. So I wasn't a big fan of the art because, it makes sense that it's so dark and such thick lines when you're talking about a story that takes place sort of in the mind or the shadow world, if you will, of Ebon. So everything is, dark, and Static eventually reaches him by sort of using his powers to sort of illuminate everything and sort of remind Ebon of more of his human side, who he was before he got his powers, and still agree to go and, help free Ebon's brother no matter what the cost. So I feel like this was supposed to be a hugely impactful issue. The problem I have with it is we've had some really emotionally impactful issues, including the last one, the previous one, also the one where we saw the aftermath of Quincy's death. And I feel like the emotion in those issues was sort of the byproduct of telling a very good story, right? And it didn't feel like it was so purposeful, like they were going out of their way to really tug at our heartstrings. This one, it feels like they're purposely trying to make it emotional. They're purposely trying to make it emotionally impactful in such a way that it kind of goes a little too far, and it leans a little into like cliches and tropes. And so then it didn't land for me. Like I didn't feel emotionally invested. I really couldn't wait for this to kind of be over, because you sort of expect what's going to happen, right? Well, we know that Static and Ebon are eventually going to team up, and they're going to go take out the bad guys and probably rescue Ebon's brother. Like that's what we expect to happen, right? It's a DC superhero comic. So I'm kind of ready to get to that. So to have this confrontation take this whole issue in a way, again, that's supposed to feel like it's impactful, and Static reached him by, appealing to his better nature and what have you. It just felt a little, like I said, tropey. So this is probably one of my least favorite issues of the series so far. But I will say, as much as the art was kind of dark at points and whatever, and really thick lines, which is not a style that I typically enjoy, it's the story, the narrative, or the visual storytelling is still done really, really well. And there are really, really impactful visuals in here at times. Draper-Ivey is extremely talented artist, so I don't want to sell him short on that. But I think just for me, this issue was just a bit of a miss. It's still a technically well done comic, but there wasn't a lot there for me. It just didn't land, unfortunately. So, what were your thoughts on it, Rocky?
I felt a little bit more. I was more satisfied with it than you were. I did. The art was not as great as previous issues, although there was perhaps an in-story reason why, because they were in like a shadow realm. Draper-Ivey's art is still really, really good, and the entire point of the issue was this conversation between Static and Ebon, and Ebon wants to save his brother, and he wants to use lethal force. He wants to kill to do it, and he wants Static to join him, but to use lethal force. And so, in many ways, this was a conversation between these two relatively young heroes. Well, one a hero, one a potential villain, perhaps future anti-hero or villain, Ebon himself. They're debating the use of lethal force. They're also talking about loss and how to channel that loss and how to do it. Ebon can only focus on the suffering, and Static's message is, you're focusing on the suffering and the loss, but focus on the other things that led to that suffering. Focus. The reason why you're suffering right now is because you're fearful of you've lost friends that you've loved. Focus on the love that was lost. Focus on that love. Don't focus on the suffering as a result of the loss of that. And I think there's a lot of meaning there. I know you've indicated that, well, perhaps it's a little bit tropey, and there's some tropiness there. But then this is sort of Static is a new character being introduced to a new generation, and I think that this is the type of message that for this type of character, this is the type of message that really needs to be hammered home. And I think it works very well. I really appreciated when Static talked about Quincy, the young boy who he was he was the mentor of, and Quincy was a character that I loved, and he sheds a tear talking about Quincy because he loved Quincy, but that Quincy himself, this young genius that could have done so much to perhaps better the world, his life cut short because of it, and the tragedy of it all, and Quincy, how disappointed Quincy would be if they used lethal force and took and embraced the darker angels of their nature. But I thought it was a well written issue. I thought it was this was the moral centerpiece of all the issues, and if this was extended an extra issue, it was probably to get this conversation in this issue to take place. Albeit, I don't think they needed the entire Ayala needed the entire issue to do it, but I appreciate that what she was going for.
Yeah, I mean, again, Draper-Ivey and Vita Ayala are both writing this. If you ask Vita, they'll say that Draper-Ivey's doing the heavy lifting. It's clear that Draper-Ivey's a huge Static fan. I don't know how much input Vita's giving, but they're a very talented writer. going to be curious to see. We know we're going to get another limited series. We're going to get season 3. Going to be interesting to see if Vita's still a co-writer or if Draper-Ivey's going to handle it all on their own. Are we going to get completely new input with new creative teams? I guess we'll see. All right, up next we have Action Comics number 1057, main story written by, or the first story I should say, they're all sort of equal in length. First one is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Rafa Sandoval, colors by Matt Herms, letters by Dave Sharp. The art by Rafa is really fantastic, and again, such great world building by Philip Kennedy Johnson. This is the first issue of a new arc, but it's definitely tying in with previous stories that we've gotten from Philip Kennedy Johnson. So this this movement, this even the government characterizes them as a terrorist organization, this Blue Earth organization, who's really xenophobic and aliens shouldn't be here and what have you. They reach out to the Daily Planet. They say they'll give an exclusive interview to the Daily Planet, but it has to be Clark Kent that gives the interview. It becomes clear at the end they know that Clark Kent has some tie to Superman or is Superman himself. And there's some debate, which I appreciated, in terms of being kind of meta and tying in the real world. There's some debate whether the Daily Planet should even be having this interview, because in a way it gives legitimacy to this Blue Earth movement. But the point that Lois and Clark make is that, well, if we don't, they're going to go down the street to somebody else who may not fact check them as well as we will. So it does seem like the Blue Earth movement is running sort of as a false flag operation, because at the end, after Clark interviews them, they attack Clark Kent. This guy attacks Clark Kent, and he's dressed as Superman. He looks like Superman. Well, we know that he's not Superman, so maybe they don't even realize that Clark Kent is Superman. Maybe they just are attacking. The reason they wanted it to be Clark to interview them is because then they can show Clark Kent being attacked by Superman. Everybody in terms of the world knows, hey, Clark Kent and Superman are friends. But as a Blue Earth, we want to show that, yeah, look at how bad these aliens are. They'll even attack their friends. Superman's supposed to be friends with Clark Kent. Look, he's even attacking Clark Kent. So we'll see how that all plays out. Can Clark fight it back against Superman without revealing that he himself is Superman? We'll have to wait and see. It is an interesting story, and it is sort of meta, but in a way, it's also depressing, right? Like we talked about this years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when just based on conservatism and what's going on politically in the world, how it's so many of the villains and the villain groups in comics were leaning toward fascism, and how it gets kind of depressing that it sort of comics can reflect the bad things that are going on in society, and then it ends up not being a reprieve, right? We want to read these stories to kind of get away from the crappiness of real life and bad things going on in the world. I feel that way a little bit here, right? Like I'm so anti-xenophobia. Like I hate that idea. I think you should judge everybody on an individual, and you can't just, make generalizations and paint them all with the same brush. If somebody's not from the United States or whatever, they're just bad. Somebody's not from Earth, they're just bad. If they're an alien, an extraterrestrial, they're just bad. I just don't think you can make that generalization. You can't make that assumption. So I don't like that idea. So this Blue Earth as an entity, as a as an organization in this book, it doesn't make me feel good. Which it's not supposed to, but it's a little depressing that it's even a thing, even in fiction. So, but the art's fantastic. Really love Philip Kennedy Johnson. Man, Superman's his favorite character, and it just shows issue after issue how much he loves Superman. So it's definitely working for me. What do you think of this main story, or the first story, I should say?
I thought it was really good. I liked the way it opened up with Superman talking to a construction worker who was a reformed villain, former villain of Superman, and Superman is visiting him, having lunch with him on top of a skyscraper that's under construction, and the guy even says to him, why are you having lunch with me? Why are you talking to me? And of course Superman says, because it matters, and the fact is Superman cares. He cares what happens to the guy. He follows up on the people that the villains. He might stop them, but he cares about what happens to them. I'm going to say again, I've said this before in our last review, Superman, the way Philip Kennedy Johnson is writing Superman, that's exactly what Wonder Woman has been written to have done in some issues. That's exactly what you would expect Wonder Woman in many ways to do, which I find ironic. So Superman is, but in any event, it's nice that Philip Kennedy Johnson, you can tell he loves Superman, and he sees Superman as caring about everyone he helps, and he's always going to check up on people. He's going to check up on the Reformed. He'll check up on Metallo. He cares about Lex Luthor, even in the pages of Superman. Lex Luthor is the only person where he ever failed to reach. But in any event, the issue itself, I thought worked really well with this Nora Stone, who is the leader of this Blue Earth movement, and all the machinations and the struggle of the Daily Planet, the ethical issues they had. Should they give voice to this terrorist group? And they decide they're going to. They insist on talking to Clark Kent, and I like that it had to be Clark Kent, and they undoubtedly have a reason that they want it to be Clark Kent. Because we don't see enough of Clark Kent, and I like the way that there's a balance there. PKJ manages to balance all the characters of the Superman family, of which I still maintain are too damn many, but he still manages to make this very interesting story out of it. And the way Lois Lane, the struggles and stresses she has as an editor, as the editor-in-chief, that's coming through in flying colors. She doubts herself, but Clark is there to support her, and he's also there. He's a pretty damn good reporter. You mentioned the conversation between Nora Stone and Clark Kent, the way he questioned her. He didn't, the way she tried to intimidate him. Clark Kent is a very good reporter. He comes across as a very good interviewer, and he's not in any way intimidated. And I loved what PKJ did here. Rather, the artist Sandoval did a fantastic job as Clark's interviewing Nora Stone. He could tell when she was lying, when she was telling the truth, when she was lying. He was checking her out, literally checking her out, but for legitimately good reasons, and he could tell when she was lying, and he was, what her motivations were, or he was questioning her, and it was, I felt like I was Clark Kent when Clark Kent was interviewing her. The reader, we feel like we're actually Clark Kent talking to her, and we can see through her with the X-ray vision thanks to the Sandoval art, and we felt really part of the scene, and that's something you can really only do in comics, and it works so well, and I'm impressed. I don't know where this is going with this Blue Earth terrorist group. Why do they care about alien threats? What's the true agenda? The suggesting that even Superman's a threat, and Superman maybe is the head of all this threat, and bringing all these aliens to Earth because of War World, and because even with his origins. I mean, there's a lot going on here. What's their true agenda? We don't know, but man, PKJ's done a really good job, and I'm invested. I'm invested in the story. So, and it's such a welcome, and I didn't feel like I missed anything coming out of Night Terrors, which is really nice as well.
Yeah, I mean, they were lucky that they finished off one arc. Not everybody had that luxury that they finished one arc and went right to the next one.
Yeah.
One other thing that I want to mention, as opposed to the Batman books, which we talked about earlier, how they feel a little wonky. Gotham War's going on; they don't all feel like they're set during Gotham War, what have you. I give credit to the editorial group that's on the Superman books, in that whether it's Superman, whether it's Action Comics, whether it's Steelworks, whatever, they all feel like these writers are talking to each other more so than maybe it's because there's so many Batman books, so many different things going on. Yeah. I mentioned how it doesn't feel like Rom V's detective stories in any way going on during Gotham War or what have you. So could be before, could be after. I mean, who knows? But you get references to Blue Earth in Steelworks. You get references to Blue Earth in Superman. These books feel like they could be happening simultaneously. I appreciate that. I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like it should in terms of continuity and being tied together. All right, second story is the Dan Jurgens Lee Weeks story. Dan Jurgens on writing, Lee Weeks art, Elizabeth Breitweiser handles the colors, Rob Lee on letters. We know last time that as he was about to run out of air and pass out, the John Kent was able to pound on the walls of his prison that was underground on this planet and create vibrations, even though it was soundproof. He created vibrations. Superman rescues him. The woman, this alien woman who took advantage of John Kent, Giselle or whatever her name is,
Gliana.
That's who it is. She flees. She gets away because she unleashes these robots on her own citizens. Clearly, just a terrible person. But she's being instructed by somebody that we don't know who it is through this like piece of technology, this little floating ball. Her parents even mention it, that she's been brainwashed or persuaded or whatever. So we get a glimpse of this person. It appears to be a female, but we don't get a really detailed enough look to really know who it is, who's calling the shots. But whoever it is also does grab Doombreaker and teleports Doombreaker off of Earth onto the ship that Gliana is using to flee her home planet. And there's definitely hints that Gliana is going to be back with Doombreaker as her soldier to cause more problems. Dan Jurgens has created an interesting character in Gliana, and that she's not likable at all by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, she's young. She's been influenced by whoever this other person is. So is there a possibility for redemption down the line? I suppose there is. But she's not like this out and out, like mustache twirling villain. Like the overriding sense I get of her is she's just, not very intelligent. She's not very smart. She lets herself be manipulated and have her strings pulled. But she's not a good person either. I mean, she does this all in the name of ambition, right? Like, so she has some negative personality traits that enable this. So, but those negative personality traits don't rise to the level of her being out and out evil, somebody like a Mongol or what have you. So she's an interesting character that has some potential. I think you and I both are sort of a little disappointed in Doombreaker. He's just so derivative from Doomsday, and I'm kind of over Doomsday at this point. You want to talk about a two-dimensional villain, right? Doomsday is as two-dimensional as they get. But I do appreciate the fact that Dan Jurgens writes the family dynamic between Clark and Lois and John Kent maybe better than anybody. And it's great to see John Kent as a young kid. It does say at the end of the story, end. So I don't expect there to be more of this era of Superman in Action Comics going forward, but who knows? Again, with the way Gliana flees and the Doombreaker or whatever, the story has definitely been left open-ended to add more to this. So I guess we'll see. What'd you think of the second story?
I really liked it, and it just plants seeds because we're going to be seeing Gliana at some point in the present day, and probably having an adventure with a grown-up John Kent, who, unbeknownst to her, has been aged up. And it's going to be really interesting to see Gliana and John Kent meet up again in some sort of future altercation or battle, as the case might be. And I'm really curious to see what happens. And of course, with Doombreaker now being in the hands of this unknown villain, this unknown, partner or mentor of Gliana, who mentored Gliana to try to take over this world. But Gliana, according to this person, didn't do everything that she was supposed to, and that's why she failed. And now also has Doombreaker. It's interesting, and frankly, it makes Doombreaker more interesting too. Get Doombreaker off the planet, get him elsewhere, because we already have Doomsday taking over hell. Let's get Doombreaker off planet, make Doombreaker more of an intergalactic villain, partnered with other galactic villains for John Kent. Superman has his Doomsday in hell. Let John Kent have his Doombreaker and Gliana and his own rogues gallery originating from this particular story moving forward. I think it works very well. This is a really nice story. This would be a nice collection. I hope DC collects this whole story, this whole Gliana saga as a one issue. or a nice trade, I would pick it up. Maybe even as a nice little hardcover, but that's probably asking too much. But I really enjoyed it, and I like the art as well. I love Lee Weeks in the art, and of course I miss that interaction of a younger John Kent interacting with his parents and continuously screwing up and having to be saved by his dad. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was definitely my favorite. Actually, I can't even say it's my favorite of the issue because PKJ did such a good job. It's tied with PKJ, so this entire issue is really damn good. Definitely it's in the running for pick of the week. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, I would say I would be surprised if they don't collect this because so many people love that Lois and Clark Dan Jurgens run. So
yeah.
All right, last story by Magdalene Visaggio with Matthew Clark as the artist, Matt Herms on colors, Rob Lee on letters. It's a Superboy story. Superboy struggling with his identity, talking to Ma Kent, talking to Miss Martian, and again, just kind of struggling. Like, I'm always going to be Superboy. I'll never be Superman. Who am I? What's my purpose? Whatever. This feels a little out of place with what we just got with Kenny Porter's Superboy Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
like it feels like
didn't
he just like learn? Didn't he just go through and have this identity crisis and kind of resolve this? If I had to guess, this was probably written before the end of that. So, and again, with the 2-month delay, this is just coming out at a bad time. But this references Superman Man of Tomorrow. So I don't know. This just feels like DC doesn't know what the hell to do with with Connor Kent rather. So I don't know. I don't know what to think, but I mean, this is just the beginning of the story. We've got more to come. On the last page, John's texting with somebody who says usual place. Yeah, be right there. So I guess we'll see. We're told Superboy's adventures continue in the pages of Superman and then the new Speed Force #1. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but it seemed really, really strange. I don't know what else to say. So it was a lot of angst. What'd you think?
Yeah. Why does he have his fingers dipped in pink paint at the end? He's laying on bed and he's got his finger. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know why. There's a couple of, there's I don't know.
I mean, I thought, what was he using it, put it for his hair, but that, no, that's not how you dye your hair.
Colored his hair. He colored his hair earlier in the issue.
Yeah, but why? But again,
his fingers are. Yeah, he's got. So I think he colored his hair earlier in the issue, right? So if you look throughout the issue, he has that pink on his fingers.
Why?
He has that because he used that paint to put color in his hair.
Oh, okay. I guess he has to do that because he can't use dye because he's got super hair or something, or
apparently. But that doesn't explain why he still has the bowl of paint next to him on the bed in the final. Like maybe he's gonna put more paint in his hair. Like I don't.
Yeah, and why is he wearing pink? Even his shorts with the pink hearts boxer shorts. I don't know, man. I think he's confused with more than one identity. But come on, man up there, John. What the hell, or Connor? But anyways, no. What did I think? I'm glad he's getting lucky. I'm glad, Miss Martian. Hey, she's a hot. I'm glad he's getting some. Good for him. I actually thought that was an interesting pairing. Why not? He's more of a galactic spacefaring hero. I think that was what I like. What Kenny Porter took him out into space, made him have his adventure. In my head canon, I can kind of reconcile the two stories, saying, well, he came back from space and he found himself a little bit in space, but he still has got some residual issues there, and but at least he's getting rid of some stress. He's got a good looking girlfriend who can shapeshift into whatever the hell he wants. I mean, hey, he can have some fun, and that's what he's doing. But in the meantime, I thought he was a little bit of a jerk to her. She wanted to know what was bothering him, and she said, well, he said, well, you're a mind reader. Why don't you just use your read my mind. She goes, well, I don't do that unless I have consent. And she gives him consent. He gives her consent to read his mind. She enters his mind, and then he gets angry at her, tells her to basically F off. And so he was kind of a jerk. So he's got some issues that he's going through. But hey, this is in keeping with somebody who's maybe going a little bit nuts. After all, I always, what's that cliche? If a woman has purple, pink, or green hair, they have mental health issues. Maybe that applies to Superboy as well now. But that's an unfair cliche thing for me to say.
I don't know what your hatred of colored hair is. You hated.
Well, first of all, I'm telling you,
in the John Kent, and now I've never heard anything about if women have pink, purple, or blue hair. They have never. Oh yeah. Oh, just notice it. Just notice it from now on. Just when you're out and about, walking down the street, anybody with it, just watch them for 5 minutes, and then they'll do something out of the ordinary. No. I know people that have those crazy colored hair. There's nothing wrong with them, other than they just like to be different or whatever. I know many people that color their hair many different colors.
Yeah,
especially young people.
I did say it's a cliche. I'm having fun with it. And I make fun of Jane Nakamura's pink hair, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So it is a. But I'm just saying it is a unfair stereotype, but a stereotype it is. But in any event, I don't see myself or anybody dipping their hands into pink paint to flare their hair back out of being inspired by Superboy in this issue.
You know what? I would be over fucking joyed to have pink hair. I would be overjoyed if I had hair. If somebody told me, okay, you can have, instead of being bald, you can have hair, but it has to be pink, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Be careful. 100%. Go put a pink wig on your head and you might change your mind.
No. It has to be my real hair. It's not worth it if it's a wig. But I would take pink hair versus no hair.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Enough talking about hair. Penguin number 2, Tom King is the writer. Rafael Della Torre on art. Marcelo Maiello on colors. Clayton Cowell on letters. Now, as opposed to Flash, this truly is a simple issue. We can describe this very quickly. It's the return of the Help. The Help, who we previously saw in Batman Killing Time. I love him as a character. Obviously, that Batman Killing Time was set in Batman's second year of his career, so this is set in modern times. Help is very much older now. He's 92. He wants to be retired. He says as much. Penguin comes asking for, hey, I need help. I'm going to go back to Gotham and try to, get my position back. The Help's like, nope, not going to happen. I'm retired. And Penguin doesn't take no for an answer, manages to drug the Help, and then kills all 28 people that work in the Help's mansion. Gardeners, chef, chauffeur, personal trainer, doctor, everybody. Kills everybody. Butler, everybody. So there's a couple of things here that I didn't care for. First of all, I get that the Penguin had to bribe the chef, who ends up getting killed anyway, to poison the Help. And the Penguin does a couple of things to kind of manipulate the Help. The Help was established by Tom King as like this guy who could fight, again, a Batman, only second year Batman, but could fight, that could best Batman in combat, in hand-to-hand combat. The Help is like a legit. And I just don't, like, if I just take the Penguin from what I know of him, and I take the Help as he was in Killing Time, I would 100 times out of 100 bet on the Help against the Penguin. So it lacked a ring of truth, verisimilitude, to use your word, to have the Penguin basically fool the Help. Like, the Help should know that the Penguin's going to be up to some machinations and not going to accept the Help's refusal to join forces with him or to work for him, basically. So that just didn't really ring true for me. But that's kind of true of this whole Penguin series. I just don't see the Penguin as any sort of formidable villain at all. To me, the Penguin's kind of a joke. Like, much like the power creep has happened with Batman, the power creep has happened with his villains as well, right? And you kind of have to expect it. If Batman gets better and harder to beat, then you have to level up his villains as well to make them still be a threat. So we saw that happen in Batman Year Zero with the Riddler, because the Riddler was kind of a joke previously before. You go back and read 60s, 70s, 80s stories with the Riddler, and he's just telling riddles and ha ha ha, whatever. And, he's gone from that to, the Riddler that we have in Batman One Bad Day, where he's like smarter than Batman. So they've definitely leveled up the Riddler in recent years. Joker, is the Joker and whatever. I just don't buy it with the Penguin. It just doesn't feel accurate. The Penguin is just kind of this dumpy old crime boss who has a sadistic streak, so people fear him. But in terms of being able to like manipulate and be this puppet master, I mean, I get it, right? Like we talked about this back during the Mariko Tamaki Detective Comics run, with Worth and what have you. We mentioned back then that when the Penguin kind of got off the sidelines and quit just making money at the Iceberg Lounge and wanted to kind of get back into getting his hands dirty, we said back then it seemed like DC was trying to level the Penguin up. That is what this is. Like, make no mistake about it. When you put Tom King on the Penguin, it's because you want to level him up. You want to make him seem like a threat. And as much as I love Tom King, and again, a very technically well done comic, fantastic art, great color work to set the mood. I'm just never going to buy the Penguin as a real legitimate threat. To me, swap it. Have the Help become you. Do you need another like super scary Batman villain? Then it should be the Help, because he's badass. He's badass in a way that I'll never accept the Penguin's badass. So anyway, that's just my own personal thing. Again, in terms of the story itself, yeah, it's well done. It's well done. It's well paced. Great art. So what are your thoughts?
I come at it differently than you. I have always thought of the Penguin as someone who has to be badass and must be badass, but for some reason has never been portrayed as badass. And I appreciate Tom King finally coming along and being a writer that says, this is the way Penguin ought to be written. And he writes him that way. That's why I loved Penguin issue 1. And I love this Penguin issue 2. But I am in the minority on that. It just getting a feel for a lot of people's reactions to issue 1. A lot of people felt that, the Penguin would not do that. The Penguin isn't that powerful, isn't that, doesn't have that much agency or gravitas, et cetera, et cetera. I thought, I thought it worked. I think the Penguin could not possibly have survived as long as he as in Gotham as a mobster if he didn't have some power, some influence. And what I think this issue does that really works for me, and the way that I chose to see it, and straight up, I got to confess, upon my initial read, part of me was thinking, there's no way that the Help is going to tolerate this from the Penguin. But what becomes apparent, I think, as you get through the issue, and the only way that you can interpret this, if you are going to be inclined to like this story or even accept it, is that the Penguin is very, very good at reading people. He's very good at it. I'm pretty sure Amanda Waller knows that. I think that detective from the first issue knows that. I think the Batman knows that. The Penguin is very good at reading people. And he knows that the help here is, he reads the Help as being depressed. The Help doesn't want to retire, yet he's retired. And he's got all these servants. And while it does sound a little bit forced and cliche at the end, when the Penguin says to the Help, you have all these servants. I killed all your servants because you're not someone who should have servants. You're the Help. In other words, it's your job to serve. That's what you've done your entire life. You're the best at what you do. You're the best. You're amazing. You're the best at fighting. You're super intelligent, and you're going to sit here and you are going to retire when you're still in your prime. Yes, he's 92 years old. He retired when he was 85 years old. The Help, but he's amazing. He's incredible. And the Penguin is. And I got the impression that the Help was letting Penguin. The Help clearly could kill the Penguin at any time, but the help was psychologically broken down and then realized that, God damn, the Penguin's right. What am I doing here? And I think that that was part of his motivation. It sort of snapped him out of it, and that the help decided to embrace who he really was, and clearly didn't have much issue, didn't really have much affection, that much affection for his staff. And he just basically leaves with the Penguin at the end. And I think the Penguin ultimately understood that. And at least that's how, it's pretty much how you have to interpret that. Now, here's where a lot of people have accused Tom King of writing characters out of character. The Help is Tom King's character, so it's kind of hard to accuse Tom King of writing The Help out of character. Although it's hard to imagine that The Help would be that powerful and then suddenly become that pathetic when the Penguin comes along. Unless, of course, the Penguin had understood him and read him, and the Help really was yearning to get back into the game. And I think the Help really was yearning to get out of that boring life where he was just hunting ducks and walking around his big estate. What's that?
You're saying that the Help, when he was saying, I want to retire, I want to be retired, I want to blah, blah, blah. So he was saying that, trying to convince himself that that's what he really wanted, but what was truly in his heart was to be involved. Okay. I can buy that.
I mean, that's the only way that's my headcanon. That's the only way I can justify why the Help would not just kill the Penguin at the end, because clearly the Penguin, that's the only interpretation I can think of in terms of what Tom King wants the reader to get out of it. I'm not saying it worked. I can totally see your point of view, because about it doesn't really work, but I'm thinking like, well, let's face it, Tom King needs the Penguin to have a very competent right-hand man, and the Help is precisely that. The Help is somebody that can hold his own against Lady Shiva, and against even he even talked about meeting a young Oliver Queen and getting a young Oliver Queen to choose a bow and arrow over a gun. I mean, so he's really propped up the Help. So the Help gives the Penguin more gravitas, and so the Penguin having maybe a psychological edge over the Help, or really understanding him on that base level, I think is what Tom King was going at. I can see that it doesn't work, but I think it's the only way to interpret this story so that it has any degree of verisimilitude, to use that word again.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's move on. Curious with what your thoughts are on this one. Power Girl #1, written by Leah Williams, pencils by Eduardo Pansica, inks by Julio Ferreira, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Becca Carey. Gorgeous, gorgeous main cover by Gary Frank. Absolutely love it. I wish Gary Frank had drawn, as much as I love Eduardo Pansica, although I do prefer his line work to be colored by Antonio Fabella. But yeah, Edward Pansica's art is fantastic, but man, that Gary Frank drawing Power Girl is so good.
Gorgeous.
Anyway, yeah, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, straight up, I like this issue. I was pleasantly surprised. I was
shocked.
I was actually what writer Leigh Williams did here is that I'm so glad she's moving away from the telepathy nonsense and telepathic powers, and she's actually creating grounding a story for Power Girl that has to do with her Kryptonian origins, her Earth 2 Kryptonian origins. And what this opening issue does is it shows a gorgeous Paige at this gala, and she's dressed up. She looks amazing, and and she's there to give a speech and to talk about well, I mean, she's actually fairly good with computers and technology, and she's actually utilizing that. I mean, she's actually going back into what people need to remember, or ought to remember, that Karen, when she was Karen Starr, she was a billionaire. Now, she gave away her billions and then ultimately went off to Earth 2, but then came back. So she does have a lot of Leigh Williams seems to be embracing the fact that she does seem to have some power, some economic knowledge here, and she's I don't know if she's rich, but clearly she knows. Paige does have a background in computer tech, and she seems to have a business acumen of some kind. And what I like in this issue is that it shows her using that, and it shows her that she's meeting new people at a gala, she's being approached, and ultimately she does end up being attacked, and ultimately by someone who is, well, it's related to, I forget his name. His name eludes me. Amalek. He's, yeah. In any event, to cut to the chase, while she manages to defeat Amalek, it becomes quite clear that something else is afoot. And then Superman shows up at the end and tells her that there is this virus that's going around, and it's Kryptonian in origin, and it's Kryptonian in origin in a way that it's Kryptonian. It's Earth 2 Kryptonian. It's from her Krypton, Power Girl's Krypton, which is impossible because she's a multiversal anomaly. How can it be from Power Girl's Krypton if Power Girl is one of these multiversal anomaly along with the Huntress and Perdegaton that was established in Justice Society? So that's interesting to me. And I like the fact that Leigh Williams is bringing in that uniqueness to Power Girl. It's focusing on that origin and is the original origin, and I like that. And she's got her own independence, and she's got her own business, and she's smart and she's intelligent. And I like the fact that we don't see a lot of Omen in here. This is Power Girl on her own. She's got her own friends. She's got her own business, and she's less pathetic, frankly. I really did not like what Leigh Williams did to her in those opening issues of Action Comics. I thought it was awful. But this is way better. I find I'm way more invested in this. I'm more interested in where this might go. And Edward Pansicco's art also is so much better than Marguerite Sauvage's art in my mind. It's more of the DC House style in my mind. It's amazing. I love the art. Power Girl is sexy. She's gorgeous. And I'm not sure where the story's going to go, but I like this. I like Leigh Williams, how she scripted Power Girl here. She's no nonsense. She kicks ass. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty. I mean, in this one issue, she's wearing this gorgeous, she's the woman in red, this gorgeous woman in red in the opening pages, looking like a sexy librarian with the glasses. My God. And then she ends up kicking ass in the middle of the store. Then she gives a speech to the crowd. She's like a successful, gorgeous, successful woman in red. And then at the end, she's kick-ass Power Girl. And again, sexy as hell. And I like the suit. I like the breasts. This caters to the Purian fanboy in me, but it's respectful to the character. And hey, I enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this, and man, that cover A. Kudos to DC for finally getting they got a cover A correct. You got the right artist on cover A, and I don't know. I enjoyed this issue, and yeah, this is they should have started off with this. Because I think the way it started off in Action Comics with Power Girl was a huge turnoff. I think it pushed a lot of people away, but this is way better, in my opinion. But so, what do you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you. I'm reserving judgment. I'm a big fan of Leigh Williams, but I do have, I get what DC's trying to do, right? Like, her name is Kara Zor-El, right? That's the same name as Supergirl, Kara Zor-El, but this Kara Zor-El is, her last name is Zor-L, and Supergirl is Zor-El. Power Girl is basically the Earth 2 version of Supergirl, but now she's, for reasons, on Earth Prime. It's even mentioned. So yeah, you can understand, and the whole negative connotation to Karen. Previously her name was Karen Starr, and Karen's not a good name to have right now. And so, hey, let's give her a new identity and whatever. And in that way, you're trying to make it kind of new reader friendly and what have you. And you want it to work on that level. People feel like they're in at the beginning. And so as sort of a byproduct of that, and the sense you get in the story is this is a very young character, right? Like when Superman is giving her a bad time, because you mentioned, Leigh Williams getting away from the ideas of her telepathy, whatever. She still has some extra powers she hasn't seen before. She even uses them here when she takes a bomb to the Marianas Trench, and Superman's like, "Why didn't you teleport up into space? Right? I got to go to the Atlanteans and convince them that this is an act of war and what have you." That makes sense when you hear Superman say that. And then Power Girl sort of freaks out on him. Like, I panicked. Blah, blah. Like, that's such a like young, inexperienced hero thing to do, right? For her to do that in the first place, and then the way that she reacts. Then you compare that against the way that she acts and the way that she talks, where we saw her most recently in Justice Society with Jeff Johns writing her and not calling her Paige, still calling her Karen. It's like two completely different characters. Completely different characters. I like the old school Power Girl. I appreciated her. But I understand why DC may be doing this, why they want to kind of, reestablish her, because, it can be confusing. It is really easy to get her mixed up with Supergirl. And so call her Paige, give her a little bit of a different personality, different powers, and that sort of thing. And maybe, down the line, people will not get her mixed up so much with Supergirl. So I can understand what they're doing. I appreciate what they're doing. I like the Eduardo Panseca art as well. But it will take some getting used to, right? It's just to change a character that's been around for as long. Power Girl's been around for decades, like almost 50 years. And to be changing her now, it feels weird. There's part of me that doesn't like it. But it's not just change for change's sake. I mean, they do have, as I said, good reasons for doing it. So hopefully it takes, and I do like kind of the tone of her personality and the way she talks in the hands of Leah Williams. But again, there is that feeling that she's a little younger than she actually is. So I don't know how they really reconcile that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right. Up next, we have Unstoppable Doom Patrol number 6, the penultimate issue, part 1. Is This Burning? Dennis Culver is the writer. Chris Burnham is the artist. Brian Reber on colors. Pat Brosso on letters. We get a new version, basically, of General Immortus here. Looks fantastic. What do you think of this?
I've been enjoying this Doom Patrol series, and it's funny. I've got reading reviews of this. The reviews are somewhat mixed. I fall on the side that I've been enjoying this. I find, even though I'm not a Doom Patrol expert by any stretch, I'm having a lot of fun with this. And this issue, I mean, it was extended. I think it was originally 6 issues. It was extended for a 7th issue. This is the 6th issue, the 7th issue. And writer Dennis Culver, he's taken bits and pieces from different iterations and different storylines of Doom Patrol, and he is cramming a lot into 7 issues. In fact, that is a potential criticism, because I think it might lose some people. For me, even though I don't necessarily know exactly what's going on in this particular issue, this issue in particular, while a lot happened, I do have some questions, because I don't know a lot about this Dorothy that shows up at the end and exactly what's going on. And there's a couple of new characters that show themselves that I have a feeling aren't new at all. Like there's this this new character Kipling and some of these other characters I don't know a lot about. Even the Flex Force here. The issue starts off with the Doom Patrol training some of the trainees, sort of like the X-Men Danger Room, and it's the Flex Force. Flex Mentallo has his group, which are going to be fighting, Starbro and Squonk and Roxy Centauri and Silo Simon and AVM, Animal Vegetable Mineral Girl, take on the Doom Patrol, and they're playing a capture the flag in like a Doom Patrol setting. While Crazy Jane and Niles Calder watch this take place. And Niles Calder, the former chief, says to Crazy Jane, he says, you know what, I think you're doing a good job. And sort of like they're not fighting or arguing anymore. So Niles Calder seems to be more on page and accepting of what Crazy Jane, who's the new chief of the Doom Patrol, is doing. But then out of the blue, they're attacked. The headquarters of Doom Patrol is attacked by General Immortus and Mala, and they want to resurrect Dorothy. Their entire goal is to resurrect Dorothy, who was the former member of the Doom Patrol and used to be involved with Robot Man. And Dorothy had some strange power sets herself, which I'm not really sure. And at the end of the issue, she ends up being generally Mortis takes some sort of wax serum and then drinks it and then falls into the burial site where Dorothy is, into the coffin, and then he's resurrected and rises, and he becomes the eternal flame. And so, I mean, it's crazy. It's so nuts. We saw all these other crazy characters when generally Mortis's crew attacked the Doom Patrol. There's this one character called the Quiz that I think it's my favorite new character. I didn't know what this is the first time I've ever seen this character, the Quiz. Maybe it's old and maybe it's an old established character. It's new to me, but this Quiz character looks crazy, and the power set that this Quiz has, and I had to figure this out as I was reading it, but she will use a superpower on you, but the minute you guess correctly what superpower the Quiz is using against you, she loses the superpower. So if she uses invisibility against you and you guess invisibility, she can't use that power on you anymore. So it's really weird. And in this case, she was using I forget what it was. She was using the power set of imposter syndrome. She was causing everybody to doubt themselves, and one of the Doom Patrol members guessed it's imposter syndrome. Anyways, just crazy stuff. And all these characters are crazy. And the fight scenes, the choreography of the fight scenes is really well done. And Chris Burnham is really challenged artistically on this, and he's well up to the task. I love the fight scenes here. Just the craziness of it all. These are obscenely ridiculous looking characters. I mean, it is the Doom Patrol. The only thing more ridiculous looking than the Doom Patrol themselves are the new recruits or the new members and the bad guys. And getting all this on the page while Crazy Jane and Niles Calder look on, and they're getting involved in all this while generally Mortis wants to, rebirth himself by taking a serum and combining himself with the body of Dorothy, who has a power set that I'm not sure on because I'm not a longtime Doom Patrol reader. In any event, this is the type of story that when I read it, what am I going to do after I'm done reviewing this? When I got time this week, I'm going to Google Dorothy Doom Patrol. I'm going to look at it because Dennis Culver has me curious. And this is the stuff that I enjoy this. I enjoy this type of story. I'm having so much fun with this story. I got a lot of questions. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I had fun with this, and I've been having fun with this from the beginning, and that's why I'm invested in it. And I love the art, and kudos to Dennis Culver. So, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I thought that this was Lazarus resin because.
Well, maybe you're right. Of course it is.
Well, I mean, Hugin does say
he calls it wax.
He calls it. Well, at first, I mean, when we first see, so we get that terrible. They're digging up Dorothy, so she's there, right? Her skeleton, her remains are next to the grave that Monsieur Mala has driven, and Hugin is this like voodoo priest guy. So clearly, I guess having Dorothy's. So Dorothy, she had the ability to make imaginary creatures become real. Dorothy Spinner's her name, but I think in the Doom Patrol TV show, which I haven't read, she's actually the daughter of Niles Calder, which isn't the case in the regular Doom Patrol. She's a member of Doom Patrol. So with her there, I guess just having her body there has some remnants of the power, and then Hugin there with his voodoo abilities, and we know they're all about the undead. And then Hugin says drink the wax. So I mean, wax, resin, they're kind of close together. So I'm assuming it's Lazarus. But he drinks it, then he falls. He kind of melts and then falls into that grave, Dorothy's grave. So maybe her grave itself has some of her powers, like bring imaginary people life. And then he pops up and he calls himself the Eternal Flame, and he's he sort of looks like the skeleton that's been dipped in wax. He looks really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So, the eternal flame.
Uh,
There's candles floating around him. Like, so what are his powers going to be? Because as General Mortis, he didn't really have any, but he's very frail physically. Not powerful physically at all. Just a very great tactician. But yeah, has to be pushed around a wheelchair, like very frail. So yeah, interesting look at him, an interesting way to use Dorothy. So we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, I mean, when I talked to Dennis at San Diego Comic-Con, he mentioned how much he really wanted to incorporate all the eras of Doom Patrol. And he's certainly doing that with all these different Doom Patrol characters that show up. Again, I haven't read a lot of it. Dorothy, actually, it's interesting. She showed up in the Paul Kupperberg Doom Patrol, that 1987 series. That's the one that I know that I actually collected. I didn't read any Doom Patrol from before or since. It's gotten, way weird with what Grant Morrison did and Rachel Pollack did and Gerard Way and all those different people since then. The one I read it was way more kind of traditional mainstream DC before it went Vertigo and got all crazy and weird. But Culver's doing a fantastic job. Dennis Culver's doing a fantastic job of marrying all those eras together. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not always familiar. I had to look up Dorothy. I remembered her briefly from what I read back then, but yeah, it's not 100%. It's a lot of things are implied here with how General Mortis is transformed into this eternal flame, but who knows? I'm going to be sad to see this end. I can't believe there's only one more issue because I want more. This is so fun. Chris Burnham's art, just his style suits the kind of weirdness and fun and action and fast pace of this really, really well also. And the color work is done very, very well. It really suits the book as well. So yeah, I mean, this is just a book that the entire creative team, they just gel so well together. Again, I don't want it to end. It's been so great. And that image of the eternal flame at the end is just fantastic. I don't know how anybody sees that and doesn't, want to know more about that character and more about what's going on. So yeah, Brian Reber's on the colors. I'll call out his name again because he does such a fantastic job. You use this word in describing this book, and it is the best word to use it to describe. And I think I used it when I was talking to Dennis as well. It's just so much fun. It's just fun. You read the book, you have a smile on your face. You may not always understand what's going on in terms of all these characters, unless you have a long history with Doom Patrol, and then more power to you because you're probably getting even more out of it than Rocky and I are. But no matter what, it's fun. The dialogue is fun. Seeing these new characters, new iterations, new versions is fun. Like, yeah, the idea. I don't know if this villain, the quiz has shown up before or not. But yeah. what a fantastic idea. They have all the superpowers until you name one of them, and then that's taken away. That's just so good. It's so fun. It's so fun, and you can tell the creative team is having fun. So, man, this book is just. I don't want it to go away. I really don't. It is just so good. All right, on to the last book we're going to talk about in detail today. It's Wildcats number 11, the penultimate issue. It's coming to an end with issue 12. So this is issue 11, Endgame, written by Matthew Rosenberg, Steven Segovia, Danny Kim, and Tom Derenick are the artists, Elmer Santos on colors, and Ferran Delgado on letters. What do you think of this next to last issue?
I enjoyed this issue primarily because I like to see, I really thought finally Grifter and Zealot got together. That's why I liked it. And yeah, I mean, it's so wonderful to see, two heterosexuals getting it on in a comic book. It's so rare nowadays. I got to enjoy it while it lasts before one of them turns gay. But in any event, yeah, that was a bad joke, but I had to throw that in. But look, Zealot and Grifter were seen having sex in the first issue of Birds of Prey. Remember when Black Canary recruited Zealot in the first issue? She was with Grifter. And this, I figured, I don't know if in continuity-wise where this fits, but this was a long time coming because in the previous, I mean, this is the 11th issue. There's only one issue left after this. Grifter was in another timeline where he ended up, confronting and having a pretty unfortunate dysfunctional altercation with another version of Zealot in another timeline. who ended up being killed. And in this one, there it, it it actually surprised me that Matthew Rosenberg actually went there, because I thought this was going to be like a moonlighting thing where he'd continue to perpetuate the idea that will they or won't they? Yeah, guess what? They won't. Will they or won't they? Tease, tease, tease. They won't. But no, they do. They get it on. And what's even more hilarious is that as they're getting it on, you got the other character with eavesdropping on their lovemaking, hoping that she's going to be invited in. She's going to jump in for a threesome. And this is something that, you can only get away with in a Wildcats book. Gone are the days, of course, of the Comics Code Authority, and thank God, because this would not pass the Comics Code Authority muster. But I thought that was my favorite part of the issue. Now, as for the rest of it, the rest of the issue itself, the Justice League is still looking to sort of shut down what the Wildcats are doing, or what they think the Seven Soldiers are doing, and what they think I think it's Jason Lynch, I'm getting that wrong, is doing. So there's, frankly, I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly is going on and who they're fighting at the end here. But ultimately, the attempt to take over Wildcats has been unsuccessful, and that's going to lead to the altercation, and we're going to get the final issue at the end, because Grifter, Zealot, and the rest of the Wildcats are pulled into a battle, which ultimately ends up being a trap where they're going to be taking on, I guess, the other Wildcats team, or are those the Seven Soldiers?
Soldiers, yeah.
Yeah, the Seven Soldiers. So this series has been too long. It's taken too long to get here, but it does have its moments. And Matthew Rosenberg, I do enjoy his dialogue for the most part, and that's what's kind of kept me invested most of the time is his humor, particularly with Grifter. I thought it's worked reasonably well most of the time, and yeah, so I had fun with it. So what about you?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say, yeah, I really enjoyed it because it's almost over. But yeah, I also knew you were really gonna appreciate the Grifter Zealot romantic scene, if you will, them hooking up. So yeah, I agree with you to some extent. I think that this series has meandered a little bit at times, but again, I go back to it being a very political book, and just not knowing enough about Wildcats and enough about some of these characters to really be able to say whether it really landed all the story beats that Matthew Rosenberg wanted it to. I continue to love the characterization he gives Grifter and Zealot and Marlowe and a lot of these other characters. But I sort of agree with you in that I wish it would have been a story that was a little more focused. But then I think about that. I imagine how that might have been. And then I think maybe it would have been left wanting a little bit more. Now, previous to this, we had The Wildstorm, which was the Warren Ellis take on it, which wasn't necessarily tied into DC continuity. It had some really fantastic art. I'm trying to remember the artist that did it. John Davis,
isn't it? John Davis Hunt.
Yeah, John Davis Hunt. Yeah, fantastic art by John Davis Hunt. That was much more focused and kind of more on a standalone. I think the best Wildcat story, the best Wildstorm story would be maybe a little in between. I think that didn't have quite enough politics in it. Story felt a little bit smaller scale, and this feels a little bit too big for the real estate of the pages that we got. So I kind of think maybe somewhere in the middle would have been better. But I am enjoying this. It does make me want to know more about Wildstorm, more than I already do. And I think, again, it'll probably read better as a collection. But I think the shortcomings of it and the fact that it did sort of meander and there are still going to be questions left unanswered, that's reading it all in one sitting or all together in a collection, that is going to become a little more apparent, I think. So don't have any idea what the sales are on this thing. So whether or not we have more Wildstorm, I guess we'll have to we'll wait and see. All right, well, that does it for the single issues. There are some collections out this week from DC as well. We've got Tim Drake Robin Volume 1. This collects the Megan Fitzmartin series, issues 1 through 6. We also have Batgirl Year 1. This volume collects the 9-issue miniseries that was written back in the 90s with art by Marcos Martin. It was written by Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty. So if you're so inclined to check that out, you can pick that up. Harley Quinn, Volume 4, Task Force XX. This is the one where they go to the moon and what have you. So it collects the end of the Stephanie Phillips era. Harley Quinn 18 through 21 and the Harley Quinn 2022 annual. We've got DC versus Vampires All Out War Part 2 hardcover. So it collects the last 3 issues of DC versus Vampires All Out War. That's issues 4 through 6, plus the one-shot DC versus Vampires Killers. And then we've got a couple of Golden Age omnibus, or omnibuy, I guess I should say. Volume 1 hardcover, which collects Detective Comics 27, obviously the first appearance of Batman, 27 through 56, and Batman 1 through 7. So that's a reprinting of Golden Age Omnibus number 1. And then there's a Golden Age Omnibus Volume 10, which collects Batman 86 through 100 and Detective Comics 21 through 232. So much later in the Golden Age. And then finally, I Am Batman Volume 3, The Right Question hardcover, which collects the end of the series written by John Ridley with art by Christian Duce. That's specifically issues I Am Batman 11 through 18. So those are collections out this week, in addition to the vast number of single issues out, 15 books this week. Moment of truth, Rocky. What is your book of the week?
Wow, my book of the week. Wow. I really enjoyed The Flash. I
knew you were going to pick that.
I did. But you know what? I also really enjoyed Action Comics too. Both those stories in Action Comics were really, really good. But you know what? I'm gonna, and I enjoyed Power Girl. I really enjoyed Power Girl. Geez, it's a tough one for me because I want to. Spurrier's come under such heat. He's under such pressure from from so many people, and I really think that it deserves some recognition because I enjoyed The Flash. I think it's a good it's a good story. I want to give it. It's a tie between Power Girl and Flash, but I'm gonna go with Flash with honorable mention. I'm gonna go with Flash here with an honorable mention to Leigh Williams' Power Girl. And I just gotta give my pick of the week here. Here we go. So what about you?
Well, mine's definitely not The Flash. I am one of those guys putting a lot of pressure on Cy Spurrier. And I'm not, it's nothing personal. His writing style, I just don't think suits The Flash. And I don't appreciate all the highfalutin words. I think that makes it feel unapproachable. This is a number 1 issue, right? There's people that are going to be jumping on. This is going to be their first issue of The Flash they've ever purchased. And I think the art style, again, Mike Deodato is a fantastic artist, huge fan of his work. But for this story, the art style that he currently uses with the, breaking of the panels, it just doesn't work. And the story doesn't feel approachable for new readers. So it is not Flash for me. I'm glad you gave an honorable mention to Power Girl. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Power Girl as well, because I do think that's a very approachable first issue. But my book of the week's got to be Doom Patrol. Just so much fun. Just really, really enjoyed it. And I really hope that it continues. Hate to see it come to an end. But I also thought Batman Beyond was really great as well. So was the Donna Troy Teen Titans, the Penguin story, Penguin issue, technically very well done comic. So yeah, overall it was a solid week. Yeah, Doom Patrol for me. So, all right. Anything else to add before we get out of this marathon recording here?
No. It was a big week this week. I'm glad we got through it. And yeah. So you got anything coming up? Interviews or?
I have a couple. I was sick last week and I had to postpone a couple of things, so those will be coming up. And then, New York Comic Con's coming up as well. I'm not going to be able to make it, unfortunately. I can't get time off the day job. So that's kind of putting a pin on a lot of stuff I'm doing because a lot of people are going to do that. But yeah, there'll be some other interviews coming up real soon. So be sure to check them out. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Don't forget, if you're listening to the audio only on the Comic Source podcast, head over to YouTube, subscribe to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom, ! Once you're there, you know what to do. Ring the notification bell, subscribe, leave some comments. We love to discuss the books in the comment section. But if you don't subscribe, you don't ring the notification bell, you won't know when there's new content out, and you don't want to miss it. Also, if you're checking us out on YouTube, stumbled across us, or you're already a subscriber to Comic Boom, don't forget to head to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to the Comic Source. That way you don't miss any of our audio-only content. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you later.